Good morning. Welcome on in, DJ and PK. Thanks for joining us on this Monday morning, May 19th. Got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about, first off, RSL, man. They lose again. They can't score to save their lives. Right now, we're going to hear from Coach Pablo Mastroeni.
Diego's a competitor. He's absolutely a competitor, and again, I think that's what we need. We need personality in that attacking third. And obviously, 70, we talked about it last game, Caleb, where in this, 70th minute he was running on fumes, right? So then you go into this game and about that time he wasn't getting near the ball, and just felt like some fresh legs could go in. And it's a gamble to take, and that's why I didn't take it at home the previous game, is because right now Diego's the most dangerous, goal dangerous player we have, but I felt like we were getting the ball in good areas, and felt like some fresh legs might be able to do the trick.
Gotcha. And then speaking of the fresh legs and the goals, I guess what did you see from the guys that came in, and maybe what's kind of the plan from here on to get some more goals in the back of the net?
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about. And again, I keep talking about this. Tactics will get you in and around goal. At the end of the day, you have to make plays. What does making plays look like? Just so that we're clear, is the quality of service has to be really good. And today we had one really good cross from Dom, right? So we played 90 minutes, 97 minutes, and there was one quality cross, right? So that's one way to make a play. The other way to make a play is, even on those crosses that aren't great, we've got to have guys get into the box in dangerous areas, right? So just gambling that the ball is going to show up in that spot. The third way is creating an opportunity for yourself, right? And so dropping a shoulder, top of the box, shooting, taking guys on 1v1, a lot like what Diego Luna does. And so there's just no secret in football that you have to make plays, and that's something that we haven't been able to do this year. Last year they came in droves. It was so different last year, where we had guys scoring from 50 or 60 yards from goal, making plays, right? It was one of those things, and to break the snide from scoring goals, you guys have to make plays. Again, I feel like box to box, we played a really good game. And I say that every game. And so, again, I know the guys are giving their best effort. I know there's a lot of young players on the field. I know there's not a lot of experience up top. I know Willie's just getting his legs underneath him, but it's crunch time, and again, everyone wants to play, right? All the attacking players want to play. And the way you stake a claim in that position is making a play, because everyone does the work on both sides of the ball. Everyone's in good spots. Everyone's running half spaces. Everyone is getting in good spots to be able to receive and play wide. But at the end of the day, that's not how you score goals. Score goals is like, I am going to execute in front of goal, right? And that the best chance we had tonight was Jesus on the back post, with a great cross from Dom. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, the quality in the final third is lacking. The quality. And the only one that's able to play beyond the tactics and make plays is Diego Luna. And again, he scored more than his fair share of goals this year. And we just got to find a way, maybe tweak it a little bit more, maybe add, some more pace and power up front. We got to find a different solution, because after games, I'm saying the same thing, where the team's playing great, we're controlling the games, we're dictating it, we're getting balls into offensive areas that we want, but at the end of the day, the final product is going to be the same. So that's going to be our challenge moving forward, because again, I think defensively we did a good job, and then the other part too is, if you're not scoring goals, you can't give up goals like we gave up today. And we had two chances to clear the ball or knock it out for a corner, to see another play. And I think in the moment that we're going through offensively, where we just don't have enough firepower, you can't be giving up soft goals like that when you have control of the moment.
Lastly, for me, you mentioned some guys kind of running on fumes at this point. Tight schedule, a lot of games this time of year. How are you seeing? How are you guys managing minutes? And is there concern at all about the sheer number and the volume of matches right now?
Not necessarily. I think every team has to do it, and that's why all these guys are playing is because this is a group that we have, and we got to try to find, some sort of attacking spark that's going to put some goals in the back of the net, and so, we can't bring anyone in. There's no, we've got to work with the players that we have and put them in best positions, to make plays. And so I don't think it's as much the schedule as it's, because even when we didn't have 3-game schedules, we still struggled to score goals. And so that I think that's going to be the focus of this week and every week moving forward until we start doing that.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Yep.
We'll stay in the room here with Matt Casey.
Hey, Matty, how are you?
What was your message to the team in the locker room afterwards?
It was basically like, I think these rivalry games, derby matches are always, a lot of them are dictated by innocuous moments that you don't think are going to be dangerous because it's going to be two teams really fighting with a lot of passion, a lot of emotion. And so I said, there's a fine line of emotion you must have to make sure that you're also thinking the game clearly because it's going to be a set piece. It's going to be a long throw. And in this case, it was a couple missed defensive actions that led to a goal that we had where, again, goals were numbers down and the team breaks us down and they switch it and they attack. You hold your hand up and you say, great job. But when we're numbers up in and around our box and the warning bells don't go off, like this is not the moment to try to keep the ball. This is the moment to clear it, toe poke it, give them a corner, whatever it is so again, I think the struggle is really, it's a young group and you can't give them these experiences, but they have to learn from now this experience. And so, I think that's really the biggest challenge. And so that, and again, the question was who besides Diego Luna is going to step up and make a play offensively? Like, because we have players that are capable of doing that. And, like if it's not the hard runs in the box, it's the lack of quality in the cross. It's the precision. And that's really it. And that's really it. Because again, the guys gave maximum effort. The guys executed tactically what we wanted to achieve. It's just that decision-making and the confidence in and around goal, which again is the hardest thing to do football. That's why you pay big money for these players because it's the hardest thing to do, right? And so we've got to find a way with our group that may not have the most experience, that are struggling scoring goals, to put them in positions, maybe play a little bit more vertical. So we'll be hammering those things out this week in order to put us in a better position to where we're not these 0-0 games. After so much time, it starts putting a lot of pressure on the defense to be perfect. And we need to find that a better balance between that.
There you go. That is Pablo Mastroeni. RSL loses again. I got to tell you about our title sponsor, DJ and PK. Proudly is presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. Coming up next, DJ and I had an opportunity to talk to David Locke the other day. We're going to replay that, get some good jazz info. Stay with us right here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort. We're joined now by David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz. David, good morning.
What could be better than a little DJ and PK in the morning, getting to chat with two of the legends of the business? There's one thing that could be better, and that's Janet Jackson as the lead-in when you're talking to DJ and PK in the morning.
You know, it could be better.
Not having the fifth pick of the draft.
There it is. The number one pick in the draft would be better. Yeah. And yet again, number one slides to number 5, and there is outrage. But, David, the reason we have a lottery is so that the team can't dump games, lose games, and get the number one pick. This happened literally for the reason that it was designed to happen, which everybody's okay with until they're the ones sitting in the number one slot.
Right.
Then it's terrible.
It's so funny. I just ended the podcast today, and that's literally the last thing I said. is for all you out there that are like, this is fixed. The NBA sucks. I'm no longer following the NBA. No. The whole point by the NBA is they do not want you to do what the Utah Jazz, Washington Wizards, and Charlotte Hornets did last year, and they've built an entire system to try to not make it advantageous, and it wasn't as advantageous as it could have been. So, yes, the NBA has no idea what they're doing. It's completely wrong. No, it's exactly what they wanted to do.
Well, yeah, but I don't know about that because the argument is to prevent it or make it stupid to tank, and next year we'll have the same teams tanking again. So why is it so great?
Right. Yeah, no, 100%, right? I don't know the answer here, and there's some landscape things in the league that are changing that are making it so with free agency really no longer being a viable way to build a roster other than really rare occasions. So then all of a sudden there's really only two ways to build your roster. One is you trade, but since you're good, you don't want to trade your good players, so you're trading your draft assets for players. And the only other thing you do is you trade your players, if you're not trying to be good anymore, to those teams who are trying to be good for draft assets, which then makes your draft asset more important. These are the only two ways right now to build a roster in the NBA. And so I don't have a good answer for you. I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying the argument that the league is fixed. This is all the shows how. No, this is exactly what the league wants to have happen. This is exactly it.
Then throw it open, and there is no lottery. All 32 teams are in the lottery.
Well, there are only 30.
30. You know that.
And
He's anticipating Vegas and Seattle.
Put them all in. That would be a TV show.
That would be interesting. Are you weighing it at all, or are they all even?
No. Everybody has the same equal chance. And televise it.
Why not just go to the wheel?
Whichever way you want to, whatever word you want to use. And televise. Don't do it in some other room. Televise it live as it happens.
Can you do, could you build a system, I'm making this up as we go along, where you cannot have the same pick within
if you want
X
to.
amount of years, without X amount of years. I was going to say 30, but then by the end of it, on the 30th year, you just have everybody slotted into a pick they haven't had. And basically by the 29th, you have the same thing. So it would probably not work. But do you have something where every 10 years you cannot draft the same position you've already been drafted in?
I'm not so concerned about that because we've seen players get drafted. Kwame Brown, Olowokandi, Wiseman here by the Warriors recently. Just because you have a high pick, Cantor with the Jazz, doesn't mean you're going to get a good player. They can screw it up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a real catch-22 here, right? That on one level you don't want people tanking, so you've made it disadvantageous or less advantageous. And then on the other side, you go present this model of everyone has an equal chance in the draft, and teams say, well, how do we possibly rebuild? So there's a total catch-22, and that no answer seems to be a good one.
Isn't Detroit one of the teams that dropped from 1 to 5 1 year? I mean, it's happened multiple times.
Multiple times to Detroit.
Right,
yeah.
And they rebuilt anyway. Look at them now. They're a playoff team. They're good. They've got good young players.
No, virtually everyone that goes and tanks for 2 or 3 years ends up in the playoffs. Almost everyone. The teams that we quote talking about not doing it didn't actually go down far enough. Sacramento lived between 6 and 10 all those years. But Washington has been an incompetent franchise in regards to winning. Did make the playoffs with John Wall and Bradley Beal for a few years. Almost every single team that has had a top 5 pick or finished in the bottom 5 in the standings for 3 years in a row makes the playoffs. There were 7 of the 16 teams this year that would fall under that qualification in this year's playoffs.
Do you think they're going to draft fifth, or do you think they're going to trade up into the, not the first spot, but second or third and get somebody that they really value?
So I think there's something really interesting. 3, 4, 5 all have, there's 5 really good players in this draft. So the Jazz are getting a really, really good player. And in my opinion, this is not universal, I don't have Jeremiah Fears in that list, and I don't have Continental in that list. So I have Trey Johnson, Ace Bailey, and BJ Edgecombe as the 3 players after Cooper and Dylan Harper. And so if the Jazz have one of them that they think is dramatically better than the others, and they offer Philadelphia the 21st pick, can they get the 3? That seems like a reasonable trade to me. If I'm Philadelphia and I've got tax problems, and I don't have one of the 3 guys that I think is dramatically better, that's the key right there. Philadelphia can't believe the same thing. And I can get another player 21 and have Philadelphia's got some roster money issues, maybe I'm willing to do that. If I'm Charlotte and there's let's say Ace Bailey goes and we really believe that BJ Edgecombe or Trey Johnson or Jeremiah Fears is an elite level player, and we offer the 21st pick to Charlotte, the other guy, and Charlotte doesn't believe the same thing, seems like that's a really reasonable trade.
Yeah, I can buy that. I don't know that we necessarily needed the results of the lottery to confirm this, but since it was the 5th pick, what's your level of, of confidence, but maybe conviction that the record and the playing time and all that we saw in the 24-25 season will reflect almost the same point in the 25-26 season?
Who are you? I didn't follow who were. I thought you were heading toward our draft pick.
Yeah.
Who are you referring to in regards to play? Oh, I think our draft pick will play 30 minutes tonight.
Right. So the results that we saw on the floor this year will mirror what we see next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meaning they have to go through at least one more draft before they can start to think about making a move.
Yeah, people get really mad at me when I say this, but hopefully 2 more.
2 more?
What? I'm about to get really mad at you, David.
My point is, if you start down this road, the worst thing you can do is bail out.
Yeah, I agree.
So the teams that have bailed out, that almost has never worked. So you do this for a few years, and you start adding pieces around with veterans that are ready to play and bring support, and then the next step is the really hard one. The one after that is then you got to, like Houston did this for 3 years. They have a bunch of pieces now. Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks are probably not championship pieces, and I'm not sure. I think Amen Thompson's pretty special. I think he's going to be like Giannis. So they probably have their guiding star for the future, but their next step in building is really hard. Detroit has Jaden Ivey. They have Jalen Duren. They have Cade Cunningham. They have Asur Thompson. They've got their 4 guys. They did Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr. That's not an answer. They got to do something different and build this thing around their guiding star, Cade Cunningham. They're in the most difficult stage. Orlando's done it with Paulo and Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs. They added Contavious Caldwell-Pope fairly unsuccessfully. We'll see what they do next. They need to do something, and they're pretty inactive. Memphis did it with Desmond Bain, John Morant, J. Aaron Jackson Jr., and then they screwed up. Went after Marcus Smart, might have derailed the whole dang thing. So that's the model. It's difficult, and it gets harder as time goes on.
When you say 2 more years of this, do you mean resting 23-year-olds because they're good enough to help you win and they're afraid they might win the game? Or are you talking about being super committed to young players and that just naturally leads to, 25 and 57 seasons?
I mean the latter.
Okay.
I think if we start a roster next year, if our starting lineup next year is Keontae George, Trey Johnson, Lauri Markkinen and Walker Kessler, that's where we start the year, that probably doesn't win a lot of games.
Understood. Is there anything that can be done now? I mean, having the lottery for everybody is probably extreme, and they'll never really do that. But can they do anything that can wait? Because they're not going to eliminate tanking. It's the curse of basketball in that all these other drafts, maybe football is the exception too, but football is such a big numbers game that a fourth-round pick can be extremely valuable to you. And if you have multiple third-round picks, they get all excited because of the number of bodies that you need to compete. But in basketball, guys can come in at the top of the draft or wherever they're drafted if they're good enough and make such a huge difference that the draft, it takes on such a level of importance that I'm not sure is there in the other sports. But you wonder, because it's so arbitrary, and then you can have big time results that can last for a long time. And I'm looking at San Antonio. They win the lottery when you got Robinson and Duncan there, and then they get a number 1 pick, and then 2 years later they get a number 2 pick. And it's so random in a sense, but yet it could be so helpful to the franchise and devastating to the people that are to teams that are competing with them. Can there be anything done that, like you were talking about, that you can't get another pick so high, or can they weight the system differently to somehow make it? I don't know that there's any answers to it, but it just seems that I don't want San Antonio to luck into Robinson and Duncan and then get Wembanyama and then 2 years later get a second pick. And who knows if Dylan Harper might be the greatest thing since whatever. And we're looking at another great run by them. And what did they do to get that? They lost. It just doesn't seem right.
So I agree with you. And the Spurs' propensity for luck is a little overwhelming. We're in the epicenter of it right now, so it feels very, very, I think for us, what I kind of keep going back to, like if you're the league and you're trying to fix something, and we keep going back to that kind of concept, as though something's broken and has to be fixed, like it's broken to us right now as Utah Jazz fans because of the fact that we didn't get the number 1 pick. It's probably broken to Washington Wizards fans, but I'm not sure it's actually broken the league at all.
It doesn't have to be broken. Can't they improve it, though?
But I think you'd have to get them to understand why what are they, like, I don't think it's bad for the league that Cooper Flagg went to Dallas.
No, it's great for the league that he goes to a big market team. That's the point. They have a 1.8% chance.
It's actually good for the league that he went to a good team. Like, he could go to Washington, D.C., which is a mammothly big market, but if he's just dueling on a team that's not any good, that's not great for the league.
Yeah, I don't know that this was great for the league. I don't know that this was great for Dallas. I mean, in the short run, sure, but he's teamed with a 32 and a 33-year-old. The 32-year-old is routinely injured. The 33-year-old just tore his ACL. I think this could lead to Dallas being stuck in the middle, and we got new ownership. We don't know how well run that franchise is or isn't going to be. We got the Doncic trade, which seems like a pretty big red flag, but it's still just one moment.
Yeah, back to PK's point, I guess you have to, from a league standpoint, you got to figure out what you really think is broken. And I just don't think that it's, like, even this year when we were going through whatever, the tank, whatever you want to call it. And everyone was like, oh, they can't have this. It's terrible. Like, not sure it was that bad for the league, right? It's not great for the Utah Jazz on that moment, and certainly the lottery wasn't very good for the Utah Jazz. But when we talk about trying to fix something or change it, it has to be bad for the league. And I don't think that what's going on right now in any of this is actually that bad for the league.
Then why'd they fine him if it wasn't so bad for the league?
I think that was a shot over the bow to make sure it didn't get any worse.
Okay, well, if it's worse, that means it's got to be bad.
Yeah, no, well, the league Okay, so that was not good for the league, and the league fined them. Right? So that's an example of, yes, the league deemed that as bad, and they took action. I'm not sure the league sees what we're talking about as bad and worthy of keep taking action.
I think in these discussions, it's best to just follow the money. And the TV networks and streaming services just gave the league $76 billion over 11 years. So the league's doing just fine. And I would say for people, worried about the whole, how does a small market rebuild? Oklahoma City, Indiana, Minnesota, these are not glamorous places or massive markets, and they're doing just fine in the playoffs.
I mean, we really we're about to have Indiana, Oklahoma City, and hope not. Go Denver. But we're about to have Indiana, Oklahoma City, and Minnesota as the three of the four final teams. It's pretty hard to argue that market size is dictating performance.
Yeah, I don't know that people are arguing that. I mean, that then you get into the real big time conspiracy theory. I mean, I don't know that they're just fine is good enough. They want every last dollar.
That's true. Yes, they do.
but to the dollar point, which I don't disagree with at all, the TV networks gave all the money, or I don't even know if they're TV networks anymore, right? Like
streaming services, yeah.
The services gave the league all this money. If Charlotte, Washington, and Utah are losing lots of games, that has zero impact on the streaming services.
Yeah, I understand that.
Right.
But you're still trying to grow. You don't want to stagnate.
Absolutely. I mean, there's going to be another negotiation one day,
right.
And there's already a commissioner, and there are multiple clubs thinking about that. And you want to win. Winning's fun. It's just great.
I'm like literally texting Alan Horton, the Timberwolves play-by-play announcer, last night asking if I can do stats for them if Denver beats Oklahoma City. Like, I like Alan a lot, but I don't like him enough to go to Oklahoma City. So I'd go to Denver. But I'm literally trying to figure out how I'm going to a Western Conference final game if Minnesota's playing Denver. It's amazing. I'm watching that game last night just going, God, I want to be there so badly. So, I'm with you. But, we're trying to have a reasonable conversation about fixes and this and that and broken. We got to get out of the lens of just looking at it from the Utah Jazz. We're trying to fix the league. We got to look at it from the league. I don't think it's broken.
Do you like any of these players more than others at 5?
So I really think Ace Bailey has a chance to be really, really, really good. I really like Trey Johnson. I got to tell you what, watching this year versus last year is just an incredible difference. I mean, last year, literally, you're watching players and you are grasping for the tiniest, littlest. If you remember, I came on the air with you last year talking about how much I like Cody Williams. The true plays I liked best by Cody Williams were turnovers. Literally turnovers. He burst through a double team, split the double team with an explosion, one threw the ball into the third row of the stands across the way, and the other way he lost control of the ball in the dribble. And I thought those were signs of that he was better than other players in the draft. That's literally how brutal watching players was last year. This is so different. These guys are all and the numbers are so different. The numbers there's very few players that red flag. The BYU kid red flags on shooting, but very few kids red flag. Last year, every Stephen Castle red flag. And I'm still not sure. Stephen Castle won Rookie of the Year. I'm still not sure. If I'm San Antonio, I'm off him. They can't have De'Aaron Fox and Stephen Castle in their backcourt. You can't have two guys shooting 30% from three. So, this is such a different ballgame. This is Trey Johnson is going to score 20 points a game in the NBA. I'm certain of it. VJ Edgecombe's just a world-class athlete. The comp is Victor Oladipo, and I don't think it's a terrible comp. Comps are never right, but it's not a terrible comp. So I think those three kids, Ace Bailey, BJ Edgecombe, and Trey Johnson, are all terrific, and so one of them's going to be there at 5. I probably like Trey Johnson and Ace Bailey a little bit more than I like BJ Edgecombe, but BJ, you guys saw him. I mean, he torched BYU. Everyone saw that one up close and personal. That's your fifth pick. That doesn't seem too terrible.
All right, that was David Locke. We talk to him every Friday. Thought we'd replay that, give you some good information on what he's thinking as far as the lottery. Is it rigged? Can the NBA fix it? all that type of stuff. Also got to tell you, we're giving away Cody Johnson tickets all week long on DJ and PK. Tune in during the 8 a.m. hour for your chance to win. All right, coming up next, I believe there were 3 big stories of the weekend. We will get to that next. Stay with us, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Good morning. Thanks for waking up this early Monday morning, May 19th. DJ and PK, yeah, we got a lot to talk about for sure. Remind me, I need you guys, this is PK obviously, I need you to remind me, today is my sister's birthday. I got to call her later today. She'd be disappointed if I don't, right? Yeah, she lives in Arizona. I won't see her. I saw her last weekend, though, and it was 100 degrees last weekend in Phoenix when I was down there on a little long weekend. And then you come up here, my gosh, this weekend, not the same as down there. But hold on, people. Sunny days are coming. Well, we got a lot to talk about on this Monday morning. I think there were 3 big sports stories over the weekend that will interest us. And there's more than that for sure. But I'm going to go with 3. I'm going to start it off with they had rivalry weekend in baseball, MLB. So you had the Yankees and the Dodgers. They finished up their series last night at Yankee Stadium. You had all the interstate, or is it intrastate, Cleveland and Cincinnati, that type of thing. The Rangers and who's the other team in Dallas? I think it's Houston Astros, right? Yeah, I know it is. And so you had all that going on. Locally, if there's such a thing, you had the Dodgers and the Angels. How about that? The Dodgers and the Angels, you know what the story was there? Oh, my goodness gracious. The Angels swept the Dodgers. How about that? Yeah, in Dodger Stadium, Chavez Ravine. My favorite stadium. Yeah, still my favorite stadium after all these years. The 3rd oldest stadium in MLB. Obviously behind the Boston Red Sox play in Fenway and the Chicago Cubs play in Wrigley. I've been to both of those places. Been to Wrigley multiple times, only been to Fenway once, but we'll get back. I was there for the 100th anniversary several years back. And it was a Sunday afternoon game. It was hot. They ran out of ice, so you couldn't get any cold drinks. Can you believe that? They ran out of ice. How do you do that? That's crazy. And my wife and I were there on a trip, and after the game, we had some tickets that were down right field. We were taking pictures behind the backstop, and some stadium workers, "Oh, you got to go. Come on, let's go. We're closing up." I said, "My friends, I've waited my whole life to be here, so you just relax a few more minutes because we're taking pictures behind home plate from the backstop. So relax from the first row behind the backstop." And once I said that, they did relax. We also took the tour. Got there at like 10 in the morning. That was way cool. A fine time was had. Baseball stadiums hold a little bit of a lore for me as opposed to NBA arenas or NFL stadiums. I mean, I would like to be to all of them. But I think the baseball stadiums are a little bit more special. Gonna knock off at least one more. I'm down to, I think, 8. I think 7 if you count the Mets with Shea Stadium, but I can't count that. I was there when I lived back there many times at Shea Stadium, and now they got Citi Field. And actually, I think I'm going to knock off that one. So I'm going to knock off 2 this summer. Saw a baseball game last week, saw the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks in Phoenix. Going to go up to Toronto this year. I'll knock off that, knock off Citi Field, I just said, and then probably head our way down to Philadelphia, Citizens Bank Ballpark, to see the Phillies. My wife has a nephew who lives in Philadelphia, starting medical school next month. I've already been to that stadium one time. I've been to Philly many, many times over the years, sort of a second home for me. And big news coming out of Philadelphia. Did you see that? Jose Alvarado suspended 80 games. He's their big old closer. And he's gone now. He's out of here. 80 games So if you do the math, if there's no rainouts or whatnot, double headers, however it may be, he can't come back until mid-August. Yeah, and he's really important to that team. And so he gets the 90 or 80 game PED suspension. And then what is the bigger story? Obviously, missing 80 games is huge. But Philly's got a really good team. They've been in the playoffs a number of years, right? And they are expected to get there this year. We'll see if him being out changes it. But the rules stipulate that he cannot pitch in the postseason. That will be a major development. We'll see if the Phillies make a move. Closers, really good ones, they don't grow on trees, man, that's for sure. And, of course, it was the positive test was caused by a weight loss drug that Alvarado took during the offseason. Their team president, Dombrowski, said, Dave Dombrowski, it's not something he did knowingly. I believe that the way he talked to me. Now, isn't that the way it is? Does anybody do it knowingly? Anybody do anything wrong knowingly? Just seems like that's what they say over and over again, that I did not knowingly use this or that. And he's a big, hefty guy, so maybe he was trying to lose weight. And then he loses $4.5 million of his $9 million salary. Hoo-hoo. Man, that's a lot of cash to be losing. If you ask me, I wouldn't have any idea how it is to lose that money because I wouldn't have any idea how it is to make that money. So we'll see how that goes. And that was one of the big stories over the weekend. As I used to not be for interleague play, but you got to come around. You got to embrace the new. And interleague play has been around for a number of years, but I thought the sanctity, the purity of the National League versus the American League, but that doesn't apply anymore. The fans have responded, and they know what they're talking about, and they want to have that, and they respond completely. So that's what I do. I respond completely to it also. I'm all for it now. The fans want it. It's about entertainment. Same thing with the designated hitter. I held off on the designated hitter for years, but both leagues have it. I thought it was ridiculous that he didn't have it, and you'd go different rules depending on which park you were playing at, National versus American in the World Series. That seemed preposterous to me. Fortunately, they got rid of that. I'm all for the DH now. I've accepted that. You got to go with the times, don't you? Or you get left behind. That's an old Kyle Whittingham line. You got to move on, or you're going to get left behind. Now, I'll move on to what was, I consider, the second biggest story. The PGA Championship. Scotty Scheffler, the Wanamaker Trophy, is his. He got his third major on Sunday at Quail Hollow back there in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he got it easily, I think. You know, he was in the mix on Thursday and Friday. Saturday, he got himself in position to take the lead, and then he wraps it up with a 5-stroke victory. There was not a lot of drama in the back nine. I know John Rahm, I think they both got to 9 under for a bit, and then Rahm blows up. What did he double the final 2 holes? So he didn't even finish in the top 3. No, that didn't work at all. There was a brief moment that essentially it was something that, okay, maybe we got some competition, but that did not happen whatsoever. In fact, the 5-stroke victory came over Harris English, Bryson DeChambeau, and Davis Riley. So what do we make of Scheffler as Rahm imploded on what they call the Green Mile, Quail Hollow's treacherous 3-hole closing streak? Meant something to Scheffler, that's for sure. He threw his arms in the air as the crowd chanted his name. He spiked his hat on the green. Of course, he finds his wife and then his young son, Bennett. Oh, my gosh, he's a dad. It means so much to him. I get a little tired of that story because everybody's a dad who has kids, and it means so much to them. And remember Scheffler, what was it, 366 days ago? He was in handcuffs in the back of a squad car, if you recall. There was that unfortunate incident. There was an accident. A man died, lost his life. Scotty was trying to go around or something. And next thing you know, he was in jail. That was a crazy story. So Scheffler joins Seve Ballesteros, the Spaniard, who is died way too young, I think like 54, as the only golfers in the past 100 years to win each of their first 3 majors by more than 3 strokes. How about that? That's something that DJ would love, that type of bizarre stat. So he captured the 22 Masters by 3 over Rory McIlroy and the 24 Masters by 4 over Ludwig Aberg. I don't know. I keep hearing his name pronounced 5 different ways. And it's the 15th PGA Tour victory for Scheffler. He's 28 years old, right? And since World War II, only 2 golfers have won 15 times on tour and captured 3 majors before age 28 or 29, not 28, 29, excuse me. And how about this? You want to know, so I'll say that again since I screwed it up. Since World War II, only 2 other golfers have won 15 times on tour and captured 3 majors before the age of 29, right? So that means there's a total of 3, and obviously Scheffler is one of them. You know who the other 2 are? Oh, just take a guess. I'll give you a second. You may have heard of them, even if you're not into golf. I'm pretty sure you've heard of them because you know who they are? The other 2 golfers who've won 15 times on tour and captured 3 majors before the age of 29? Yeah, they would be Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. Yeah, you heard of them, right? So, where is this going with Scotty Scheffler? Is he going to be an all-timer? Well, with the 3 majors, he's certainly on his way. You get multiple majors, and he's not even 30 yet, as I just said. So there's no reason to think that he couldn't have a prime that doesn't last at least until 35. Yeah, I think for sure that he's got a good 6 years of his prime, maybe more. Why not? The way these guys take care of themselves and the money that they have available to hire all these specialists in their lives, I think so. I think that can be the case. And what will it mean? Where will he finish when it comes to that, right? Oh, my gosh. I'd like to see it. Why not? I loved watching Tiger. Didn't get, I saw a little bit of Jack, but when he was truly in his prime, I realized he won the Masters at age 46 and 86, and I would have been plenty old enough to remember that. But when he was doing his thing in the 60s, yeah, wasn't old enough to remember. Wasn't into golf. Didn't really get into golf until I got into high school. So that would have been 10, 15 years before I was following golf. My dad followed it. My father followed it. That's why I love golf, is because of him. And I was golfing over the weekend, got paired up with a retired guy, and he said, "Oh, you're pretty decent. I bet you started early." Yeah, like 14, 15 years of age. He didn't start until, like he said, 6 years ago, and he wasn't very good. He was kind of making excuses for not being good, but I guess those are reasons. And you look at all these guys today, gosh, 14, 15? No, they've been playing tons of junior golf tournaments by the time they're that age. I didn't. We didn't have the finances for me to be able to do that type of thing, and I probably wouldn't have been any good anyway. I'm happy with how good I am for what I can do on a golf course. I love the sport and love watching Scheffler. We'll see if he can do it some more. I bet you he can. All right. Now, the third biggest story, not necessarily, I'm not going in order, actually, so you can argue that it's the first biggest story, depending on what your interest is, or the biggest story, depending on what your interest is. And that's clearly the NBA playoffs, right? And we had a Game 7 yesterday afternoon, and boy, it was a snoozer. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they just destroyed the Denver Nuggets. What was it, by 32 points, I think it was. Yeah, so it was not much of a Game 7. It started out a little bit. Started out thinking, oh, maybe we got something here, as the Nuggets took, a 10, 11, 12 point lead. But that went away in a heartbeat. So what we have here is the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Oklahoma City, they they had the number one seed. They had the league best 68-14. They were the youngest team to win at least 60 games. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens as the next few years roll on. Because if they get to the NBA Finals this year, which, you know, I'd have to think they're favored. They're playing the 6th seed Minnesota Timberwolves, but Minnesota's got some run going on, right? They've got some momentum, I think. So what do you think as far as this series? I believe this one gets underway Tuesday. Obviously, the Thunder will have the home court to start. Hope it goes longer, 6, 7 games than maybe it could. Don't know. You never know what's going to happen. I would think Minnesota would be able to give them a run for their money. This is Oklahoma City's first trip to the conference finals since 2016. So all you Jazz fans out there that are feeling down about this rebuild that just seems to last in perpetuity, I get it. But the Thunder, they got to the top themselves, right? They did it. Got to acknowledge it. They were able to win enough games and draft players, or lose enough games is what I was trying to say. They lost, lose enough games, got good draft picks, made the SGA trade, and filled out some free agents, and away they go. And here they are. And I have to think they're the favorite, but I don't know. Who do I want to win? I can't decide right now. I'm not sure. Ultimately, I really don't care. I just want to be entertained. But what would I want to see as far as an NBA Finals? Probably the Knicks on the other side, and they destroyed the Celtics on Friday, so they'll play the Pacers. That series gets going on Wednesday. I think I would want to see the Knicks. No, nothing against the Pacers. I don't have any problem with the Pacers, but get the big market team in there. The team of my youth growing up, only about 25 miles away on the other side of the state line in New Jersey, North Jersey as they call it. I was a Knick fan in terms of following them for sure. Oh, I follow them religiously. I could name all their guys. Had posters and all that stuff. So I consider myself an old-time Knick fan, although my fandom didn't necessarily reside in winning and losing. It just resided in teams that I had the most interest in, and that was the Knicks. I always just enjoyed the game rather than latching on to a single team. Went to several games in Madison Square Garden when I was a kid. Haven't been back there for years. So I think I would like to see the Knicks. But on the other side, on the West, I don't know, what do you think? Who do you like? One thing I will say is, how about this? You're going to have Minnesota or Oklahoma City in the finals. So you're going to have Minneapolis or OKC. So last week, all about the conspiracy theories of the lottery and Dallas getting the number one pick, so Flag can go there. Well, at least we can't say the big markets because these, I don't know their market sizes. I don't get into the TV stuff. That doesn't matter to me. DJ, when he gets back, he's going to be off today, I believe. In fact, I know. And so he would know their market size. For me, it doesn't really matter. I watch what I watch, and I don't really care about market size and any of that stuff. I care about talent and being entertained. So I'd certainly think this series has the opportunity to be entertaining, but you cannot say, oh, the big market, the league is biased towards that, blah, blah, blah. That's out the window, man. We got more proof. We may have had it with Denver. Certainly Oklahoma City, way small. I've been there multiple times for work over the years, covering basketball, landing there to cover football. And all that stuff, and obviously it's to take you 5 minutes. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not much to walk around downtown. They got the Brickyard there, which has nice restaurants and stuff, and has the AAA ballpark. So that's a fine city. I don't have any problem with it. Down the road is Norman, Oklahoma, 20 miles away, 25 miles away, whatever it is. But it is not a glorious place by any stretch of the imagination. Think about that one, right? Yeah, I think we can go there and have that as far as a conclusion and throw out the idea that, oh my gosh, it is about small markets or big markets. No, if you're good enough, you can get in there. So those are my 3 big stories of the weekend. And just a little What's Trending before What's Trending. We'll have more. Stay with us. We got some guests coming up. We got Bob Casper talking about the PGA. Hey, Sam Farnsworth from Channel 5, KSL Sports is going to join us at 9:30. And then we're going to continue also with our spring football tour. TCU, team that was in the playoff just a couple of years back. See what they got cooking. They have the opportunity to rebound a little bit. So stay with us. Coming up next, we will get to what's trending this 7 o'clock hour. Thanks for staying with us. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NBA.
Galen Long leads Wallace to the rim on Jokic. Dunks with the left hand. Cason Wallace posterizing the big man. Timeout Nuggets. Oh, an exclamation point. Elevation. Posterization by Cason Wallace, fearlessly attacking Nikola. He scaled the big mountain from Serbia and has Oklahoma City up 78-57. That was spectacular. Ives and kicks left wing to Dub. He wants three. It's online. Give it to him. Cha-ching, a Thunder money ball. And those are finishing touches, baby. Thunder get 24 from Dub. Shea now has 4 assists, and they lead at 111-76. Fires a three straight away. It's online. Tumbling in there. Cha-ching, a Thunder money ball. SGA's got 35, and the Thunder have a Game 7 win. Up 114-76. 7:40 left. Timeout Thunder.
Timeout Thunder, yeah. I think you got to do it like Locke. He names the coach. I can remember one time he was calling the Clippers, Timeout Vinny Del Negro. Oh, man, it sounded so much better than just Timeout Clippers. Now, you got to go, in that case, Timeout Adelman's son.
Well, they said the Thunder called timeout there because Dagenault was taking the guys out of the game. So timeout Mark Dagenault.
Oh, yeah, Mark Dagenault. Can anybody spell that name?
No, couldn't.
I mean, it's impossible.
Couldn't if you maybe try.
The little bitty market OKC Thunder. OKC behind SGA. That's the key. You just got to have 3 letters. OKC, SGA. I got to come up with something around our way. The Nuggets get hammered. Their season's over. Now we'll see if Adelman's son can maintain his job as interim head coach. And what's that guy's name? Dagenault?
Dagenault.
Yeah, man.
He's locked in.
For sure. Now that series starts tomorrow against Rudy Gobert and the Timberwolves. Not Rudy Gobert's significant other, apparently. I only know what I read. She won't be involved. But they will play Game 1. Interesting that they start on Tuesday in the East, who last played with the Knicks on Friday. And the Pacers before that don't start till Wednesday. Because you had Aaron Gordon talking about thinking that his hamstring and Steph Curry's hamstring, that maybe it's because they're playing every other day and they can't take it anymore. You know, all the old-time players groaned when they heard that. Back in the day, sometimes they'd play consecutive days on a Saturday, Sunday. And Aaron Gordon, who was, he gave it a good try. You got to admire his toughness, but they didn't have it. They were up 10 or 11 early and then get smoked.
It was 21-10 in the first quarter.
Yeah, thought, maybe we got something. But no, that thing went away. By halftime, it was, 12-13, something like that. And the second half wasn't much of a game. I was flicking around and not spending a whole lot of time there on that rainy Sunday afternoon along the Wasatch Front. How about this? Celtics, they were eliminated by the Knicks. I just said that. Boston star forward Jaylen Brown had a partially torn meniscus, but he still played. But they didn't have anything. They got smoked. Disappointing in terms of the levels of competition the last 2 NBA games. And Warriors GM Mike Dunleavy Jr., who got to the NBA on his own merit, not the fact that his father got him there, like so many of them are fortunate enough to do, said the franchise would like to bring Jonathan Kuminga back, but it's a 2-way street. Yeah, you don't want a 1-way street. You want a 2-way street. I was driving one time. I'll give you a quick little story, Yak. I don't want to name the name. I don't want to embarrass him. But back when I was working for the Salt Lake Tribune, we were in Fort Collins, Colorado. And I went out to eat, covering basketball, University of Utah. and I was with the Deseret News writer at the time, and he was driving the rent-a-car, right? And we went in. It was in the winter, obviously, in basketball, so it gets dark early. And we're in the rent-a-car after eating, and they're down. It's real cool downtown for anybody who has been there. I always enjoyed that trip. And they had a lot of nice restaurants down there and all that stuff. So we're leaving, and he pulls down a one-way street the wrong way. Well, there's a policeman right there. And it's dark, right? Because it's like probably 6:30, pitch dark in the winter. He pulls us over, and we really just moved over to the side. He comes up, and the D News writer, it's dark. We're in a rent-a-car. He can't figure out how to hit where the button is to lower the window. The cop's getting all hairy.
The cop's like, you're going to roll down your window, right? You're going to do that right now.
So there's only maybe a minute or two until he figured it out. And you didn't know when didn't have, this would have been the 90s, so you couldn't put a cell phone, put your flashlight on or what have you. So it was funny on that two-way street we were going the wrong way. But the law enforcement officer was cool and said, okay, just turn around. So anyway, the 22-year-old Kuminga is said to be a restricted free agent. I wouldn't think he would command a ton. I mean, the Warriors had 3 draft picks, and they really haven't hit on any of them. They had 3 high picks that could have extended their run if they would have drafted the right players. But Wiseman, Moody, Kuminga's decent, and still only 22 years old, so maybe he might command something. Maybe there might be some type of sign and trade there. We'll see. There was a lot of talk of marketing, wasn't there? That was the Warriors last.
Yeah, they were chasing marketing last year, and if you believe the reports, Kuminga was the holdup in the deal because they did not want to part with him.
Right. So I think that if they want to make another run, now they got Jimmy Butler, with both Butler and Curry getting old, that Larry Markin might be something that they would be interested in. I think he would be a very nice player on that team for sure, better than what they got. And maybe Kuminga can develop. He would fit more along the Jazz timeline. We'll see what happens on that. We'll keep our eye on that in the coming weeks as that stuff begins to heat up. But there you go on the NBA. The games get started tomorrow, and then on Wednesday, 1 game a night now going forward as we're down to the final conference teams in the conference finals for the East and the West. All right, let's move on to the NFL.
Hashtag NFL.
I mean, I'll be there. Not to do a podcast. Yeah, I'll be there.
That is not the right audio. We were going to tell you about Puka Nacua, and he had said something about Brock Purdy. And the Niners, they make it official. They give him a 5-year, $265 million extension, making Mr. Irrelevant, because he was the last pick of the draft a couple years back, more money each week during his new deal than he made in the first 3 years. Wow, good for him.
Made 2.7 in his first 3 years as an NFL quarterback and made 2.9 on average a week.
Now, he can buy himself a house in Scottsdale if he wants now. He's a Phoenix kid.
I think he'll be okay.
East Valley kid, went to Iowa State. Friggin' that dirtbag Herm Edwards, who destroyed ASU's program, tried to say that, they recruited him when he made it big. But that Cartman, who we had on last week, no, that's not true. You did not recruit him. And then he goes to Iowa State and has a nice career, gets drafted, and then blows up in the... What was it? His rookie year? Then so this is
he was a rookie.
Yeah,
and
right.
he's going into his 4th year with the franchise.
Good for him, man. Can move up from the Chandler area to Scottsdale. Did you see? Was that Tyler Shuck guy? Who's he with now? New Orleans.
Drafted by the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, and so you know how they have the cameras in their home when they're drafted. Did I tell you this story?
No.
That so he was an East Valley kid over in the Chandler Gilbert area also, and when they had the house when his family was, when he got drafted in the second round by the Saints, it said Scottsdale, Arizona, and then somebody from the Phoenix area said, oh man, NIL is really paying off. He went from the Chandler area to Scottsdale.
Got a little bit of an upgrade.
Yeah. Scottsdale, a little north of Chandler, and is a higher end area, obviously. How about this? Longtime NFL wide receiver Antonio Brown was briefly detained by police early Saturday after an altercation in which gunshots were fired outside a celebrity boxing event in Miami. No arrests were made, but the video posted to social media showed Brown involved in a fight with several people at the boxing event, and Brown was seen apparently holding a black pistol as he pursued someone. Shots could be heard off camera. Oh my gosh. Antonio Brown finds himself in a scuffle again. What's next, Tyreek Hill? I still want to know how come there's nothing around Grant Hill. Somebody explain that to me. How come Grant Hill's over here just living his life, and these guys, seems that, man, they just got bad luck over and over and over again.
Grant Hill has to run all of USA basketball, so leave him alone.
Yeah, well, he is left alone. What's going on there? Why does one over here but the other's over there? It's an interesting study that I've never been able to figure out in my mind. But fortunately, no one died, and no one, I think, was hurt. And we'll wait for the next Brown. Antonio Brown has a lot of stuff on Twitter. He tends to be funny, depending on what your sense of humor. What your sense of humor was, and he was a very good player, obviously. The Bears' search for a new stadium has shifted once again to Salt Lake. No, the franchise once again is focusing on a 326-acre parcel that they own in Arlington Heights. Now, you have a 326 parcel of land. I mean, what could it be? A parcel of what? It has to be a parcel of land.
326-acre parcel of land.
But just a parcel of land. I mean, but it can't be a parcel of water, you see?
Good point.
It has to be actual literal land. That's in Arlington Heights. So they were looking at remaining at Soldier Field in addition to Arlington Heights option. Want to start building ASAP, which means as soon as possible, I believe, as the team is exploring options since buying the Arlington Heights land in 2021. Now, oh my gosh. All I know is the Coyotes had the same thing, and we know what happened there. Come on down, Caleb Williams.
The Salt Lake Bears?
I'm sure the Bears are an institution in Chicago, and they will get something ironed out there, however long it takes, but they want that as soon as possible, and I do not blame them. All right, let's move on. We're only, what are we, 5 months away from college football starting? Oh, can't come soon enough, right? Well, we'll tell you about some college football news right now.
Hashtag college football.
The money's out. Now, this is the 23-24 academic year, not the 24-25, so it's a year behind, but those are the most recent documents available. ACC, $711 million, according to new documents released by the league, distributing an average of $45 million to each of his 14 full-time members, a record for the conference. Now, the Big 12 paid out between $37 and $41.2 million to full-share members, with BYU, Houston, UCF, and Cincinnati making about $20 million last year. They're getting half shares. So, all right, Yormark, you're the genius. You don't want the ACC making more money. Now, the Big Ten and SECs of the world are making almost double that, right? But not quite.
Going to be. The SEC for this same period, the SEC distributed $53 million, but that's before this new media rights deal kicks in.
Right.
Now, the one thing to note on this, PK, is that the tax documents for this indicate that the ACC was almost stagnant in terms of overall growth. So if they continue to stay stagnant, the Big 12's new media rights still kicks in this year, which should see them surpass the ACC.
Well, they got to. You got to at least keep pace and probably better than the ACC, and you got to figure out a way to narrow the gap as much as possible from the other two. You don't want them running away and hiding there. And when is BYU, man? They're freaking tied for first. Basketball, oh my gosh, you got Dybantsa going to Latter Day Saint Church on Sunday. What was that about, Yak?
Brother Dybantsa, let's
go. Oh, man, alive. I'm going to say this right now. If he joins, I'll go to their church.
You're in? Okay.
I will. Yeah.
Right.
If he, mark my words.
I'll save a spot for you on the back row.
Yeah, no, I'll be right there on the front row, man. I'm no Bob Uecker. I'll be on the front row with the head listening intently to everything that is being said. Hey, all I'm going to tell you right now is over the weekend I was extremely grateful for the moisture. Are you kidding me? All right, let's move on to baseball.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
1-2 again to Brandon Lau with a runner at second. Swing at a high fly ball belted deep to center field. Straw back to the wall. Gone off the batter's eye. Brandon Lau with his first multi-homer game of the season. His 7th home run makes it an 8-3 Rays lead in the 9th.
The 1-1. Swing, and there's a drive.
It's not exactly the right stuff. Yak said audio issues, but that's baseball, so you're not going to know one game to the next. A full slate as we wrapped up rivalry weekend in the MLB. Did you happen to see they had the Yankees and Mets, of course, the rubber match of that Subway Series, and it went to the Yankees. You see Alonso's throw there?
Yeah.
Did you happen to see so, what was it? 2-2 in the 8th inning. They got runners on second and third. The Yankees do. A hit to first base, and they got runners going from third to home, and Alonso threw it practically in the third base dugout. Man.
How about an airmail?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, that was so far up the third base line. The catcher did not even move to make an attempt. And then Goldschmidt gets a hit, and then Bellinger hits a grand slam, and that was all she wrote. 8-2 as the Yankees win that. And then on the other side of the country, a little closer to us, how about this? The Angels, not 1, not 2, but 3 wins. The traditionally, at least perennial of recent times, lowly Angels knock off the Dodgers. It is the first time the Angels swept the Dodgers in 15 years, Yak. 15 years. Oh, my gosh. You were still prowling the streets of Orem and BYU looking for that eternal sweetheart 15 years ago.
Yes, I was. I was 23.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness gracious. And now,
I was interning here 15 years ago.
15 years later, they get another sweep. The Dodgers. Ooh, not good for my Diamondbacks because the Diamondbacks are in Los Angeles starting tonight. We'll see if the Dodgers have some meanness and want to take it out on the Dodgers. Now, Saturday, the Diamondbacks led the lowly Rockies, the suckiest of all sucks that ever sucked. The Rockies. They led them 11-6. Team that has less offense than RSL somehow won 14-12. DJ was talking about this the other day. The law of numbers then goes back to the mean. And the Diamondbacks the very next day score only 1 run after scoring 12, but in this case they win. They beat the Rockies 1-0. The Rockies do not score at all. Merle Kelly struck out 11 in 7 innings. So I was watching that game, my Yak friend. This is what's trending is what it's meant to be, not simply reading scores. That bring in some other stuff that maybe they do not know because they already know the scores that they care about anyway. So Kelly's cruising along, and they take him out after 7, so he doesn't get the complete game. Did you know that in 1970, this comes from Bob Nightingale. I read his weekly column, a baseball writer for USA Today. In 1975, pitchers overall threw a complete game, guess once in every blank starts. What would you think it would be?
1 in every 3.
3.7.
Okay, so almost 4. Okay.
Yeah. So basically every 4th game was a complete start. Now, from 75, he has it down there every 10 years. In 85, so 10 years later, it jumps up to 6.7 starts. In 95, it more than doubles. It goes 14.7 starts. Then in 05, 25.7 starts. 2015, 46.7 starts. 10 years ago. What do you think it is now? Pitchers complete the game in blank starts on the putting them all together.
I feel like I'm going to underrate this. I'm going to say like 25.
247.
See, okay, so Paul Skeens, for the Pirates, he did a complete game yesterday, even though they lost.
He lost, so he only goes 8.
Yeah,
but it's still a complete game.
Yeah, but so 1 in 247.
Yeah, that's what it says. That's what he had.
Goodness.
1 in every 247.2 starts. So your bullpen better be good. That's for sure. And you talked about Skeens, the hard-throwing stud and future New York Yankee probably for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He loses 1-0 to the Phillies. And Phillies, Jose Alvarado, their closer. He's a big dude. Can stand to lose some weight. And apparently, if you listen to what he said, he was using some weight loss drug in the offseason, and he gets popped for a banned substance. He's out 80 games, which would put them into the middle of August, but under the rules, he cannot pitch in the postseason. That's a major loss for the Philadelphia Phillies because he was really good. Hard-chucking left-hander, and now he is gone. Oh, my gosh. And speaking of sweeps, and that classic rivalry from the bottom of the West Coast to the top of the West Coast, the Mariners sweep the Padres.
How about the Vetter Cup, the Eddie Vetter Cup, or trophy, whatever they call it. I like it. Mariners are rolling right now. I'm just waiting for the inevitable, month-long collapse.
Well, they're on top the AL West, and, that division. Watch out for the Rangers, and, you got to take a look at
Houston.
Houston is where I was going, and I know they've had a managerial change and all that stuff, so we'll see what's happening there. And they lost Bregman over to the Red Sox and got Christian Walker to play first base out of the Diamondbacks, so you got that going on there. So, and the Bees lost 7-1, Sacramento Rivercats in their series final. Now, the good thing is they open a 6-game homestand tomorrow night against the Omaha Storm Chasers, and they're not going to be chasing any storms, it looks like, because we're in the Memorial Day weekend already, or week, I should say. The weekend is the end of the week, obviously, and it looks like the weather is going to be finally turning after a week of crap. We're going to have some sunshine, and the Bees coming home, a great opportunity to get out there to the ballpark and enjoy that new stadium over there on the west side. All right, let's move on to soccer.
Sal.
He's absolutely a competitor, and again, I think that's what we need. We need personality in that attacking third, and obviously, 70, we talked about it last game, where in the 70th minute, he was running on fumes. Then you go into this game, about that time, he wasn't getting near the ball, and just felt like some fresh legs could go in. And it's a gamble to take, and that's why I didn't take it at home the previous game, is because right now, Diego's the most goal-dangerous player we have. But I felt like we were getting the ball in good areas, and felt like some fresh legs might be able to do the trick.
That's Pablo talking about taking Diego Luna out in the 58th minute. The team can't score. They're scoring less than DJ in high school. That's just a fact. And they lose 1-0. Oh, 1-0, excuse me. 1-0. My bad. 1-0.
1-0, yes.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And they got to get something to go. And I don't know if it's going to go anytime soon. And they take him out, and he's their what did he call him? The best goal scorer?
Goal-dangerous player they've got.
Goal-dangerous player, yeah. And RSL 4-8-2, man. They're sucking. And the Royals, 3-3 tie. But you got to say draw. You can't say tie. Cannot say tie. Oh, my gosh.
They gave up a 102nd minute equalizer, PK.
The equalizer in stoppage time. To me, it's playage. I don't understand. You're not stopping.
Stoppage, yeah. Okay, good point.
So there you go. That's your soccer.
#golf.
6 feet for birdie here at 14 to get to 11 under par. He nailed it. Sound travels better across the water. They can hear that all over Quail Hollow. Birdie for Scotty Scheffler here at 14. He's up to 11 under. That was a great putt. The king of golf conquers the Queen City at Quail Hollow. Scotty Scheffler is a PGA champion.
Scotty Scheffler winning his third major, first time beyond the Masters. He's got 2 of those, not this past year, but or in past last month, but before that, the prior 2 years. And he struggled a little bit, but goes and wins it running away. Johnny Rahm, what do they call it? What is those last, the Green Mile or whatever they call it?
The Green Mile, yeah.
Yeah, he struggled there. Scotty Scheffler. Is he now the greatest Scotty professional athlete of all time? Has he passed Scottie Pippen?
There's an argument to be made.
Got
there.
any other Scotties?
Trying to think.
Any other Scotties on board?
Of course, he'll never outdo our good friend Scotty Gerard, but
Yeah, but nobody calls him Scotty Gerard. They call him Scotty G.
Yeah,
This
Scotty
is just
G.
Scotty. Is he the best Scotty right now?
absolutely right now. no
Yeah,
doubt.
we got Casper coming up at 8 o'clock in about half an hour to talk about that. All right, let's move on to the hockey, and we'll finish.
Hashtag NHL.
There's Jones, Greer left circle shot, save wall. Greer the rebound in front of Chance, and they score! Jonah Gadjevich makes it 3-0 Panthers. What effort in front of the net, and Jonah Gadjevich there to jam it in. The Panthers lead by a trio with 10:21 to go here in the second. A turnaround shot, they scored! It's Reinhart from the high slot. He lets it rip. He wasted no time, and the Panthers have a 5-1 lead with 10:36 to play here in the third. Sam Reinhart adds to the lead.
Oh, man, Sam Reinhart, yeah, 6-1. The Maple Leafs lose, and the Florida Panthers advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah. Now, the joke is that Toronto is the only place in North America where the Leafs fall in the spring. Seen that. And the Stars beat the Jets, so that is the Dallas Stars over the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg goes down. They had the best record, but it don't matter. They gone. Looking forward to playoffs in the King City, which is Salt Lake City, if Charlotte is the queen. All right, what is trending? Brought to you by Shamrock Plumbing. No job too big or too small. Get the personal touch with Shamrock Plumbing. Coming up, we got Casper at 8:05. We're going to do TCU football. Steven Johnson at 9:05. And then Sam the Bam, Sammy Farnsworth of KSL TV. He's going to join us at 9:30. Stay with us. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Now, every team has been assigned a Heisman contender. Here's the dirty secret about BYU. Its best offensive player barely got to play last season. LJ Martin has serious ability when healthy. Is Aaron Roderick comfortable enough having a guy who will carry the ball 23 times? And I love this pick because that means that BYU will be centered around the run first, and then everything else can come from that, and I think that's where they're going to have a ton of success. The best thing that can happen to Jake Retzlaff's career
100%
is LJ Martin.
Yep.
Not just being healthy, but the run game being healthy, and the run game getting 5.5 per. That'd be amazing.
Your first best friend is a tight end, but another best friend is that running back, because if he's doing his thing, it makes things a lot easier for you. It's a lot easier to find guys open because defenses are keying on the run. So that would be very important for BYU.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Join Hands and Scotty G Tuesday from noon to 3 at Sound Sleep Medical. That's at 8941 South 700 East in Sandy. That's not too far from where I live. Maybe I'll go over and take a nap. The besties will be out and about tomorrow. Yeah, hot takes or toast. All right. We got the conference final set. What do you think, people? It is your Minnesota Timberwolves versus my Oklahoma City Thunder. Yeah. Are you jacked for that? What do you think? Young people, middle-aged people, old people, how you hanging on? Where are you when it comes to this series?
We're in a Salina. You're welcome.
Where'd you come up with that one?
I don't know. I just picked a random city. Salina came to mind.
That was a good one. I'm not even sure where that is.
Central,
I've heard of it.
Central Utah. But
do I see it off the freeway, off I-15?
It's on one of the signs on I-15. You heading south. You see Salina.
I can't picture where it is.
You actually have to drive off I-15 a ways to get
right, I know
to
you don't see it, but I don't know where along the head south or coming up north do you see that one, but I've seen that. So I put that up on Facebook, man. 2 out-of-the-way markets. Is this good for Utah Jazz fans? Utah Jazz fans, you can do it. If OKC can do it, why can't you do it?
That's got to be the hope.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have that hope. If you don't have that hope, what do you got? Although I know some crotchety old lady that I listen to, Dr. Laura, hope is nothing but delayed disappointment. It's one of her mantras. I live my life by her standards, by the way.
Well, and
she directs me in all things.
There's another statement my dad's made my entire life to me is hope is not a strategy.
It's not. Hope is just that. It's nothing more than wish.
Yeah, it's a wish. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that's the wish for all these hundreds of thousands of jazz fans who are so very passionate. And I would like nothing more than them to be able to experience that again, going back, over 25 years, almost 30 years now, when the Statues and Jerry Sloan led the Jazz to the NBA Finals. Forget just the conference finals, the NBA Finals. And it was a glorious time in the community, and I would love to see that, but certainly it looks like it is years away. How many years remains to be seen? But, when it happens, it's almost like you can't really believe that it's happening, because who saw the Thunder being this good? Who saw SGA being an MVP candidate? Clearly the Clippers didn't. They wouldn't have traded him for Paul George if they would have seen that. So, but the fact that you got two out-of-the-way places, doesn't that mean something? To think about this here for a second here. Either OKC or Minnesota will be in the NBA Finals. And right now, I don't hear of, and I'm not as close, we'll have on Barry Trammell tomorrow to talk about Oklahoma City. He's the longtime sports writer and media personality in Oklahoma. I don't hear of anybody on this team in OKC saying, this is a small market, I want out, there's no nightlife, what is there to do, you go live in Oklahoma City. We don't hear any of that. And have we heard any of that out of Minnesota?
Nope.
Minneapolis, where, I've known some people spent, not this past weekend, but a weekend before, with a friend from Minnesota. It's glorious there in the summer, but the winters last on and on and on. The Utes played back there in 96 was it? They played Kentucky. Mark Pope was on that team. And so they played in Minneapolis at the Dome, right, in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
We went to Dallas, and they beat, I think, Canisius and Iowa State. And then we had to go to Minneapolis, and we anticipated that it was going to be a blowout, and it was, because Pitino and that Kentucky team were really, really good, and Utah was just taking a step up at that point. They would get better in the next couple of years, but there's in the Sweet 16, and so day before the game or day of game, I'm walking around in the Mall of America, which is all that indoor stuff, and I go to a little knick-knack store to buy something for the kids or something, and I'm talking to the young gal who is behind the counter, ringing me up, right, my purchase. And we get to talk, and it turns out in the Mall of America in Minnesota, obviously, that she, the young gal, was a graduate of Hillcrest High School over there, what's it, in Midvale?
Hold on, what?
Yeah, true story. True story.
Hillcrest Husky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I said, where I was from, where I lived, and she says, oh, man, you guys are so lucky. And I said, what are you talking about? So this is March, obviously. It's the Sweet 16, right? And why would you say that? She said, because when you get back, you're only a couple of weeks away, 2 or 3 weeks, before you start tasting spring. We still got weeks and months before we can think we have any hope of consistent spring weather. I've never been there. I mean, I've never lived there, I should say. But she was saying that, these winters are just awful compared to what we have here in northern Utah. And you always hear, the warm weather and all this stuff. Well, I haven't heard anybody in Minnesota complain. So you got guys on both sides, and they're still comprised mostly of African Americans, obviously. And that was the big knock here. Oh, yeah, it's cold. It's no nightlife, not this, not that. I say bull on that. I say today's NBA player, he wants to be in a good situation. He wants to win basketball games. And they can go get nightlife down the road or what have you. And they're not looking to just party wildly every night. I just think that's a misnomer, because in order to be a great basketball player, you have got to have a commitment to the training, to the sleep patterns, to the eating right, all those types of things that are literally required to be great.
And these guys are all regimented. We've seen it with the Jazz. You know that they put the fireplace in over there at the practice facility. They're having these guys practically live over there because they want to regiment their lives. Here's what you're going to eat. Here's when you're going to eat it. Here's how much you're going to eat. That's just the food element. You talk about the sleep patterns, PK. They are told you need to get X number of hours of sleep.
Right.
So, I don't think – I can't say every player is as regimented as you would think they would be, but for the most part, these guys aren't, as you mentioned, out living the nightlife every single night.
So-called party animals.
No, they will go out every so often,
sure.
I mean,
they got time in the off-season
and that's
to do
what
all that stuff.
Jokic said last night. He said, what's your plans for the next couple of days? A lot of beers. How many beers do you think he's been drinking during the season? Probably not that many, because they're making sure that he's in peak physical condition.
Right. He's an entertaining guy. So I think it's a good sign for what we've got going here. Now, you got to get the horses, man. You got to get the players. They don't have the players yet. But, sure, I guess it's better for the league if L.A. or whomever, the big markets would be in there, more people, the ratings and all that. I don't give a crap about the ratings. But I know that I'm in the minority and that it is a business and you need to have that. But the idea of that the league is slanted towards those teams. Sure, those glamour markets are just that. I get it. But I think that particularly with the proliferation of the foreign player, not really that big of a concern. So, I put that up on Facebook. Isn't this a good sign for how good of a sign is it for the league? Is it good or bad for the league? The league would probably have the others, but I don't think they do anything to get in the way of the smaller market teams. Mark, it's great. Not good for big market teams, but good for actual fans. Yeah. And Jason, I'm sure the idea of OKC versus Indiana finals has them salivating. Caleb, not good for the Jazz if Minnesota wins it? I don't know. I'm not sure. Because, these picks that they're going to get, that they got for Cleveland and they got from Minnesota, are going to be late first rounders. But how do we know they don't move some of these picks? They've already gotten involved in that. So it's hard to say. I don't know that we can judge these deals for maybe another 5 years at least, because what they can do, parlay these picks into these players and trade these players for those players, all sorts of stuff that can go on involved in it. But I find it refreshing that you're going to get, I realize OKC in a prior time has had some other guys. I understand that, but those guys are long gone. These guys are fresh. They're new. This team, I'm trying to think of anybody on the team that comes to mind that has been in this type of experience. And in Minnesota, any of these guys, have they been in these types of experience? And I realize that Minnesota was there last year, but I'm talking about if they get to the NBA Finals. I think it would be cool. I think it would be fun to watch some new kids. And that's just what they are. Minnesota, a little bit older, but OKC, extremely young. And to have them in there, I think would be cool. It'd be fresh. I'm up for it. I don't really care who wins this series. I'm trying to figure out, do I have even the slightest rooting interest? I guess maybe Minnesota with the ex-Jazz guys. Maybe that's it. But if they don't win, I'd be just as fine seeing OKC in there because they're fun to watch. And they're a good team, obviously. You don't get to this point. They had the best record in the league, so my gosh. And it's funny to me, a lot of people, and I'm right there, have a wait-and-see. Either they disrespect the OKC Thunder or they have a wait-and-see attitude. Well, they're answering all the questions now. They're solving all the riddles as far as how good they can be. All right, stay with us. We're talking golf at the top of the hour. Coming up next, BYU. Oh, my gosh. Is he going to be gone? Is he going to play 1 year and go for 2 years? What is that all about? And they finally reveal what they're going to do with that land that is just west of the campus. There were some thoughts about a football stadium. Well, BYU's made a decision on that. We'll get to that next. Stay with us. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Kurt Heelan from NBC Sports and ProBasketballTalk.com.
Ultimately, if you're in a market this size, you need a break. And this lottery did not give it to you. And it hasn't under this new system. I mean, look, Detroit turned it around this year because they'd gotten the number one a few years back with Cade, and they made some smart moves around him. But this is the third straight year the team with the worst record has fallen to fifth. The league has to reconsider how they're doing this lottery. I get that this was a reaction to the tanking of the 76ers and the process. But if the team that's got the worst record keeps landing this deep, it's not okay. They need to do something to give these teams like Utah that are not perpetually trying to lose and give them a chance.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining us. The artist of the day, in this case the band of the day, is The Who. And why is it The Who? Pete Townsend, their guitarist, he turns 80 years old today. It's brought to you by Live Nation for all the live concerts and events in 2025. Check out livenation.com. This is ironic, Yacarino.
And why?
It's my sister's birthday today, too. But The Who, they had a song. This isn't one of them. This song that takes like 20 minutes to get into it. Get into it already. My gosh.
Bob O'Reilly, they take a minute.
They have a song called My Generation.
Yeah.
And goes, people try to put us down just because we get around. Things they do look awful cold. Now get this line I'm about to sing, Yacarino.
Okay.
Hope I die before I get old.
Ah, there you go.
Well, I just looked it up. That song debuted My Generation in 1965. 60 friggin' years ago? Is my math correct?
That's your math, yep.
So he's 80. So when they sang that tune and released it, he was 20. And include the line, hope I die before I get old. Well, Mr. Pete Townsend, you are old. You think he wants to be dead?
You made it to old, Mr. Townsend. He's credited with writing over 100 of their songs. Obviously had a fairly fraught relationship with the other members of the band. They're actually, I was just reading this as kind of getting ready for the show, PK. They have fired their drummer twice in the past 2 months as they get ready for their farewell tour. So
their fair freaking well tour. I wonder if he's had a change of heart on that line. Hope I die before I get old.
I think he probably has.
Because you be dead if that's the case. Perspective as we grow older, it often changes from when we were younger and foolish. And speaking of young, did you all, as I try to be groovy in my language, did you all see the picture on social media of A.J. Dybantsa standing outside of a Latter-day Saint church in a suit? He went to the faith of your fathers yesterday, Yacarino.
He tagged it saying first time at LDS church.
Oh, yes.
And he looked pretty, I'll give him, he looked pretty good in that suit.
Ingratiating himself in the local culture. Can you believe that? What does this mean? Ray says, when in Rome, you go to the Catholic Church. Matt, he's called to serve in the NBA, Utah Jazz mission. 2 2026 to 2038.
2026. So you got 12 years?
Wouldn't that be nice? Yes. If the Jazz can if he ends up being what he's supposed to be. You know, sometimes we see these kids in these draft mocks and then get into the game and they're not quite as good, get it in the college game. We'll see, man. How about this? Brother Buckets, is that going to be his nickname? This kid, man, for not having put one bucket in yet, he has been a smash sensation so far. Going to the games, sitting with the student section in that, what was it, Rock they call it?
Rock.
What's the Rock stand for?
Roar of Cougars.
Roar of Cougars, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, they got a great student section, no doubt about it. And he's going around to the various sections in the Marriott Center. Wow. He's got a personality, apparently, and he wants, if he's only going to be here for a few months, he wants to enjoy it. You got to give him that. Excited to see. I'm sure he's going to be involved in, he's on campus now. He's probably going to be doing some summer competitions that's going to take him away and then come back, get ready to go in August. They're practicing. In fact, they're starting practice in 2 minutes. 8 o'clock.
Yeah, they've been practicing for a couple of weeks here.
Yeah.
The funny thing about this is with the roster, this time last year, PK, they had maybe half of what they have currently in terms of numbers of guys. Kevin Young, he had to put together that roster on the fly last year because he wasn't even hired until April. So they're far ahead of where they were a year ago in terms of just the overall bodies they have.
Oh, my gosh. What does that mean for wins? Is this going to be a beautiful winter and spring?
It means the expectations are going up and up and up.
Yeah, rightly so. I don't have any problem with that. It's going to be a lot of fun for sure on that. And I told you about the West Campus. On the BYU Twitter handle, or X, the official count for Brigham Young University, there had been some talk when they bought Provo High that they might create a new football stadium there and make it an athletic complex. Well, they come out this morning, says the Brigham Young University Board of Trustees has approved the BYU West Campus site of the former Provo High School as the location for the future BYU School of Medicine.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
It's adjacent to IHC Hospital right there, and obviously they're going to be partnering with IHC. So
where's Provo High?
It's directly so if you're standing where that indoor practice facility is at, face directly west, it's right across University Avenue right there.
So they just moved it a little south?
What are you talking about?
The actual Provo High School.
Oh, the new Provo High School.
The new one. The new one.
New one's out by the lake. As I've been told, I haven't been there yet. Apparently, it's mosquito infested. You know what? Because it's out there. It's out in like the really kind of west side of Provo. So yeah, they relocated it that far west, and it's now officially called the BYU West Campus, and will be the home, as you mentioned, of the new BYU School of Medicine.
So they will not build a football stadium there.
Nope.
I think LaVell Edwards Stadium, at least for the time being, will stay where it is, and I'm totally fine with that because it's a beautiful location, and maybe they need to make some improvements to all that. All right, all this week, this is coming up. How about this? This is super cool. We're giving away Cody Johnson tickets all week long on DJ and PK. Tune in during the 8 a.m. hour, which is coming up, for your chance to win. I saw Cody Johnson a while back. He opened for Miranda Lambert at the Delta Center probably 2 or 3 years ago. He's a cowboy, that's for sure, and he's making his mark in country music. All right, coming up next, we're gonna do a little Dallas connection with Scotty Scheffler. Was born in New Jersey, but grew up in the Dallas area, and he won the PGA, his second major, which is actually his third because he won the Masters twice. But halfway to the Grand Slam, Bob Casper was there. He will join us next from Real Golf Radio, talking to us about what went down and what we can think about Scotty Scheffler going forward. Stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. Well, Scotty Scheffler did it. He wins the PGA. It's the halfway point for him for the career Grand Slam. He has 2 Masters, and now he has a PGA. We'll see what he does the rest of the year. Joining us now is our golf expert, Bob Casper, talking about Scheffler and all things that are related to golf. Bob, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing, man?
I'm excited to talk to you, excited that we have another major in the books. Before we get to the particulars of the PGA, what was going on with this driver stuff that had been making news as far as it failing the PGA tests and all that stuff? Give us some insight into what that is all about.
Okay, so there's certain ramifications or specs that drivers cannot exceed, and what happens is over time, as a guy or a player hits shots with his driver, especially on tour, with as many shots as those guys hit, then there's too much trampoline effect, and they become non-conforming. So that's what happened with Rory's driver. It became non-conforming. Some things were happening last week with his driver as well. And it almost looked like he was questioning what his driver was doing. It might have been cracked or whatever. Then it became, when they tested it was non-conforming. Scotty Scheffler also revealed that his driver was non-conforming this last week at the PGA Championship, but he was ready for it. Had another driver that had the same specs that he had with the previous driver. And he said it was kind of interesting. He was expecting it to become non-conforming because he had been playing with that driver for over a year. And so it's just a way to police the game and make sure that clubs are up to spec as far as being conforming with the USGA rules of golf. And it's really kind of a non-issue because it happens on a weekly basis. And Scotty Scheffler even said in his post-press conference after winning the PGA Championship that it needs to be policed better, and it could almost be policed every week. It wouldn't take long to have, 70 to 150 players just submit their driver, have them test it real quick and say, okay, yours is conforming, yours is not conforming. But it's just a test that they go through every so often right now on the PGA Tour, and the USGA makes sure that the driver is conforming and is not giving too much advantage or too much trampoline effect with the players.
When you say trampoline effect, what does exactly that mean?
Well, the faces are really, really thin on these drivers, okay? And as you hit a golf ball and as the driver comes in contact with the ball, the stationary ball, the face gives a little bit. And then if you were on a trampoline, like jumping up and down,
yeah,
it gives a little bit and then it pushes out. And so it helps hit the ball further. And so if it's got too much trampoline effect, then it's non-conforming. So that's what it does.
How many clubs do these guys go through, sets of clubs? Do they change throughout the year?
For the most part, I don't think they do anything as far as their irons. I think as far as their wedges, sand wedge, lob wedge, maybe gap wedge, that could change on a monthly basis because they want to keep the scoring grooves on those scoring clubs sharper so that they can spin the ball more. I think fairway woods probably doesn't change very much. Drivers possibly maybe a couple times a year. And that's, I think, as far as their hitting clubs, that's probably about what transpires with them.
Interesting tournament that we had. We had Scotty in the beginning of the week complaining about mud on the ball, and then 4 days later slamming his hat to the putting green in celebration. That was an interesting weekend, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, Scotty, what he was able to do, 2 under par in the first round, 3 under par in the second round, and he's kind of, moving himself up the leaderboard. Then I'll tell you what, he slammed the door on him on the back nine on Saturday when he was able to take a 3-shot lead, get to 11 under par, and he shoots 65 in that third round. And then he kind of let everybody back in, was having some difficulty with his swing, missing his driver left, only hit 2 fairways and 4 greens in that first 9 holes. But he righted the ship when he got to the 10th hole, was able to make birdie there and take the lead again at 10 under par by 1 shot over Rahm, and then continued with the birdie at 14 and 15. And then by the time he got to the 18th hole, he had a 6-shot lead. So, it was pretty amazing to see what he was able to do and how he was able to really enforce his will on that back nine, both on Saturday and Sunday. The back nine is what really won the golf tournament for him. And, he did phenomenal coming down the stretch, and especially on the green mile, the last 3 holes.
Yeah, no question about that. Bob Casper, Real Golf Radio, joining us. You can hear his show with Brian Taylor on Saturday mornings right here on KSL Sports Zone. And I saw a stat that just kind of blew me away. It said, okay, how many guys have won 15 tournaments and 3 majors by the age of 28, which is what Scotty is, 28 years of age.
Yeah.
And that the answer just blew me away, because it is the 2 guys that I believe are number 1 and number 2. And the only 2 guys that fit in that category, they won 15 tournaments, 3 majors by the age of 28, freaking Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. That's the ultimate. That's like Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron for home runs or something in baseball. I mean, 2, legends, the ultimate legends of the game. So that makes you think that, where can this guy go? How high, how good can he get? How much can he move up the list of all the stuff that's out there at 28? I don't want to put undue pressure on him. It doesn't matter what I put on him, what puts on himself. But it seems like the future possibilities are just literally unlimited.
It's interesting. Just a month ago, we were talking about Rory McIlroy and how far he's going to go now that he's won the career Grand Slam, and what can we expect for him the rest of the year? Winning the first major of the year and playing here at Quail Hollow, which he's won 4 times on. It set up perfect for him. The U.S. Open would set up good for him also, and Royal Portrush, in Northern Ireland would set up great for him. Could he win the career Grand Slam? Then Rory comes into the PGA Championship, and his pre-tournament press conference was really telling. He said, I've accomplished everything I want to in golf. I don't know what's ahead of me going forward, which was really telling, kind of, so to speak. Now, conversely, you've got Scotty Scheffler, who now has won, like you said, 15 events by the time he's 28, including 3 majors. He's halfway to the career Grand Slam. What's the remainder of the year look like for Scotty Scheffler? What's his career look like? He's only 28. He's still in his 20s, and he's got 20 more years of competitive golf, and he has a fire that burns inside of him as far as a competitor is concerned, and it's so cool to watch and to see how he plays on a week-to-week basis when he's in a tournament. Yeah, he just wants to win golf tournaments. He wants to win trophies. He's very similar to Tiger in that the money takes care of itself. I just want to win golf tournaments. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens the remainder of the year with Rory, if he can get back on track, and Scotty. Rory took, 2 to 3 weeks off and then played a week before the PGA Championship. Scotty Scheffler's playing again this next week in Fort Worth, Texas. And then he's going to play probably Memorial, which is a signature event the following week. Then he'll take a week off for the Canadian Open and then play the U.S. Open. So, he's staying in the mix where Rory kind of got out of the mix of playing in between his Masters victory and the PGA Championship. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen the remainder of the year, but now, the whole Player of the Year award is up for grabs with Rory and Scotty, and I expect Scotty to win more tournaments before the end of the year. He's on that track, and he seems focused to be able to do that.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. Bob Casper joining us here on the KSL Sports Zone. 28, he's making a big deal, as they often do. They get married, then they have a few years after that the baby, and he's got the son, 1 year old. I'm wondering, and your father, the legend that he was, Billy Casper, he went, and we see a lot of the LPGA stars take off because, I don't want to say it gets in the way, but family becomes a big deal, right? And you got other responsibilities as opposed to when you're younger and you're single or maybe married and you don't have kids yet. How do you think that's going to play into it? Because as he grows older, and your father went through this, and they all do, at least most of them anyway, they have these family obligations, commitments, desires. How do you think that affects the game? Because it could potentially slow him down, because this sport is unlike any other sport in terms of every week, if you want to play, you're traveling.
Yeah. It's interesting. Tony Finau travels with his family. A lot of guys travel with theirs. Scotty Scheffler had his wife and little boy there. His parents were there this week to watch him as he came off the 18th hole. I think, PK, golf is interesting. It's to get to the top level, you have to be very selfish. Okay, you've got to work your way into becoming a great elite player, and we've seen that with Scotty and Rory and a bunch of the guys. Okay, once you get there, and family obligations, your wife, now he's got a child and everything. Now it becomes, as an overall selfish type of a game, and now it becomes a more focused down. Almost magnifying glass type of a game for a player. They make the time that they use into practice and playing tournaments more focused, and allowing them to compartmentalize that a little bit more as compared to an overall, because they've got, like you said, family obligations and family they want to spend time with, and kids. These guys, top players, are playing 18 to 20 events in a year. It's pretty. We have the caddy on our show every week, and we always talk about, it's a pretty good part-time gig that they get to do as far as playing a professional sport. But 18 to 20 events in a year, maybe a few more, 22 to 24, and they work at it, and they work at it hard. They don't really put their clubs down and just kind of stick them in the corner or anything like that. When during the year, they're constantly working and practicing and doing things, and it's a 9-to-5 job. It's something that you have to stay committed to and that kind of thing. But they're able to do that and focus it down when they have kids and a family, and so that they can do those things with their family, have those experiences with their family, and also be able to stay an elite player in the world.
Tell us about, you alluded to it, what's next. The U.S. Open comes up next month. I think it starts June 12th. Where is it going to be, and what do you know about the golf course?
Well, that's Oakmont. Oakmont's where Johnny Miller shot 63 in the final round and won his U.S. Open. It's had some great winners. Last winner was Dustin Johnson, and that That was his U.S. Open victory, then his first major championship, and then he won the Masters in the COVID year in 2020, in the fall of 2020. But it's a long, big, tough golf course. It's going to be a severe test with 5.5, 6 inches of rough at minimum, green speeds that these guys aren't normally used to on this golf course. The membership there, it's almost like they like it to be the hardest golf course in the world, and many say it is the hardest golf course in the world, the most difficult. They want the golf course to play the toughest. It can probably play with an over-par winner. Brian Taylor and I got to play it a few weeks ago in the U.S. Open Media Day, and it's like I said, it's a beast. It's hard, but yet it's scoreable. There's about 4 holes on the golf course where you could probably that are birdie holes, but a lot of those holes they've got a 300-yard par 3 on that's the 8th hole. There's just it's going to be very, very difficult, and under U.S. Open conditions, if the weather cooperates, it's gonna the golf course is going to run fast, and it's going to be tough. They want to make you use every golf club in your bag, including the 6 inches in between your brain, in between your ears. Yeah. They want you to use your brain. They want you to get stressed out. They want you to all of the above. And it's going to be a great championship. It's going to be fun to see how everything works out there and on that golf course, which is a phenomenal golf course.
Okay, Bob, since you guys played it, what'd you shoot? Everybody wants to know.
The interesting thing is, my handicap's like about a 0.6. Brian Taylor's is about like a 1.9. If you look at the handicap and then convert it over on their golf course, Brian's handicap's about an 8 on their golf course. Mine's about a 3 or a 4. I shot 70. What did I shoot? 78. And I thought I played pretty good. Birdie last hole. Brian had a couple of birdies. He shot I think 80 or 81. It's a brute. And we played 3 tees forward from where they're going to play it during the championship.
You did. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. So it's really, really hard, and it's going to be crazy to see how these guys. But that's what separates the best and elite players in the world, is how they can play the golf course at 7,300 yards and under those conditions and score and become a U.S. Open champion. So it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be pretty cool to watch. But this week coming up, we've got, like you said, as far as the schedule is concerned, we've got Colonial, which is in Dallas, or which is in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Scotty's going to play. Yeah, Scotty's going to play this week. Then we've got Memorial, which is Jack Nicklaus's tournament in Columbus, Ohio, which Scotty will play. Then you've got the Canadian Open, which I don't know. I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he's going to play 5 weeks in a row. No. And then you've got the U.S. Open. So, we're moving right into the good stuff. Right. We're still in championship season, and then we've got the middle of July at the British Open, and then the PGA Tour winds down, and then the Ryder Cup coming in September. It's going to be fun.
It will be. I'm looking forward to it, Bob. We'll talk to you in a few weeks then.
All right, PK, take care, buddy.
All right, that's Bob Casper. You can hear he and Brian Taylor every Saturday morning right here on the KSL Sports Zone. And wrapping up the PGA, looking forward to what is ahead in the world of golf. And the weather here is going to get better and better. So people are going to be out playing golf, having good times out on the golf course. That's what I intend to do. We'll see how that works out for me. All right, coming up at the top of the hour, we're going to continue our football spring tour. TCU, man, the Horned Frogs laying in the weeds. How good will they be? And then next, man, we got to get what we're giving away. We're giving away all week. How about that, man? That is awesome. That is the Cody Johnson giveaway. They will give away tickets all week long on DJ and PK. Tune in during the 8 o'clock hour, which is now. We'll do that next. Talk a little bit about the NBA. Stay with us right here on the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
I will say I do think the Jazz probably do need to make a shift away from what they have been doing the last 3 years, which is this scatter shot acquisition of talent, hoping to get the number one guy, and not really having any path forward towards team building. Of just, let's try a little bit of everything, which is, I think, of what they've been doing, and I totally understand it. Like we said, you've just kind of got a couple of chips on number 6 and a couple of chips on 9 and one on black and whatever. You're just trying to win somewhere. If that is what it looks like again next year, I think you're really going to test the fan base, and I'm curious if they have the stomach for it, which again, I think you can accomplish what you accomplished this year in a different method that might win over the fans a little bit better. I might narrow that down and reorganize my gamble or my investment approach.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
That voice you hear singing is Cody Johnson, and we are giving away tickets. Cody Johnson tickets giveaway. Caller 12 right now. Caller 12 at 801-575-ZONE. That's 575-9663. Win a pair of tickets to see Cody Johnson live at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on June 28th. Call right now. 575-ZONE. 575-9663, and you can win a pair of tickets if you're caller 12 to see Cody Johnson live at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on July 28th. Call now if you want to see our guy, Cody Johnson. I've seen Cody Johnson in concert before. Yeah. He is a country western emerging superstar in country music in that industry. Caller 12 right now, 575-ZONE. That's 575-9663, and you can win. All right. So, picture yesterday of A.J. Dybantsa in a suit going to LDS church services. And all right, we can have fun with that. But I think it's a big deal in the sense that it shows that it's more than a transaction, right? He's going to play here for Kevin Young. Kevin Young with his big thing about stacking days, and I make sure, have fun with it, stacking paychecks, because clearly A.J. Dybantsa is going to make money playing basketball at BYU. But it's more than a transaction. He's going to be here for a short time. The anticipation is he plays one season and he goes to the NBA draft, just like Yegor, right? I mean, that's the way the system is. And so they're playing by the rules of the system. And then they go on and they go play in the NBA, right? We all think that's going to happen. We all can appreciate that that's going to happen that way. But I think that if you're a BYU fan, you take a little... a little enjoyment and a little acknowledgement that it is more than just simply going to be here, going to use you to get where I want to go. He's in Provo, obviously, goes to church yesterday. I assume it was local. It could have been someplace else, but I assume it was local, that he wants to be here in the community for the short time that he's going to be here. I think at least if you're looking for something that it's just not simply a transaction, that it is something that he can enjoy his time here, I think that's cool. And I think maybe it means a little bit more than simply, well, you're just going to play ball here and then move on. We saw that with Yegor, man. His going away press conference was pretty doggone cool. It seemed like he wants to be a part of the community. Yeah, I even read a thing where it said that he can see himself living here, a kid from Russia living here, right? He brings up Travis Hansen's name, his American mentor for sure. So I think it's good news. The Cougars are on the court as we speak. They're having a practice this morning, and Steve Cleveland is there. He can give us a little insight on how it is. I'll probably have him on tomorrow to talk about that very thing. So I think it's good news for all you basketball fans there that want to say, well, it's more than just the money. That's what BYU's been pushing, that it is more than just the money. that there are other reasons that they're here. Maybe I'm reaching a little bit, but I think there is some fact there. Go ahead.
Let me just add one thing to that. Is that to your point, BYU has been very adamant in trying to say, hey, it's more than just money.
Right.
Money's what gets them in the door, PK. But if you've listened to what AJ and his dad in particular have been talking about, the environment around BYU, what they've enjoyed about associated with Kevin Young and the like, that I think adds that element of, yes, money got them interest in BYU originally, but what sold them is the people and the environment that he's in Provo currently.
Kevin Young. There has been no coach that has taken a program to levels that we didn't anticipate. I mean, maybe he can go Urban Meyer. I don't have any problem putting Urban Meyer on there. I mean, that's so quickly. Kyle Whittingham and plenty of coaches have taken programs to higher levels. That's not the point. I'm talking about so quickly.
Yeah, he just barely passed his 1 year mark.
Right. I'm talking about virtually overnight to be able to do what they've done and just change it. Black kids, they didn't want to go to BYU. Non-LDS kids, they didn't want to go to BYU. The honor code and this and that. Suddenly, all those things that were thought of as impediments, they're no longer impediments. They're obstacles. They don't get in the way. I mean, that's just crazy to me how everything has changed so dramatically in such a short span of time. All those things that we thought were hindering BYU from being successful, now all of a sudden, no, they're not. It's no big deal anymore. It's crazy.
Well, and it's something that Kalani Sitake has talked about for a long time since taking over at BYU as the football coach, is that he said the honor code, some people may look at it as a hindrance. We prefer to look at it as a strength. It allows guys to come in and really focus on their craft and become the best football players they can become. I think that's something that Kevin Young's also preaching. Is like, hey, the distraction-free environment, come in here, focus on your basketball. And if you're even here for just the 8 or 9 months that we expect that AJ Dybantsa will be in Provo for, well, you can still have a good experience and obviously hone your craft and be even better than you were when you arrived.
Yeah, and it looks like that's the direction they're going, particularly for these NBA dudes. I mean, they went, when did Jimmer get drafted? 2011?
2011.
And they haven't had a draft pick since then?
Not a one.
And we're in 2025, and obviously, I think Yegor is going to go top 10.
So I actually was talking with a person who was out in Chicago for a stint last week, PK, and they're like, if he does not go in the top 10, I'll be very surprised.
Right. I felt it. I thought he was going to show well. And this shooting stuff, I think he'll be good enough there. And he does so much that you got to look at what he does do and what he doesn't do. And Kevin Young is going to be a wealthy man. He's already a wealthy man, but he's going to take it to the highest level because we know that the Suns had an opening, and we know if he had stayed in Phoenix, he'd be the head coach right now.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because they fired Vogel, they fired Coach Bud.
He was the highest paid assistant in the NBA when he left for the BYU job.
And those folks viewed him as something that they wanted, but now they come after him. There have been some conversations here with Phoenix, and then you had Chris Haynes putting out a list of the final 8 candidates.
Calls them the Elite 8 of their candidates, and one name's missing, and that would be?
Yeah, Kevin Young. It's pretty cool. Johnny Bryant is on that list.
Yeah, that's good to see Johnny.
He was, obviously played here at Utah, coached with the Jazz, went to New York. Then Mitchell essentially had the connection with him in Cleveland, where he's at now. And now he is looking to make a move, potentially. That would be awesome. They listed the 8 guys that you may know of. Johnny Bryant topping the list. David Fizdale, Coach Memphis. Take that for data. He's been on the Suns staff. Borrego, who was, what was he? He was with Charlotte, wasn't he?
Yeah, James Borrego, yeah.
Yeah, and the other guys I don't know that people would know. Sean Sweeney with the Mavs. I wonder if Alex Jensen would have been considered, but that ship has sailed. Let's see. Jordan Ott, also with the Cavs. Steve Hensel with the Nets. Micah Nori with the Wolves. Dave Bliss. Can't be that Dave Bliss. It's not that Dave Bliss.
It's not that Dave Bliss, no.
He's an assistant with the Thunder. And so those are your 8. And Kevin Young is not on that list.
Take that for data.
Yeah. Boom. Slammed it down. David Fizdale. We'll see what the direction. That's going to be a tough job because they don't have the picks and all that. I mean, they could change that in a hurry if they get some trade bait and ship off Durant or whatever they may decide to do and go in that direction. But that's it. Chris Haynes reporting that. And Kevin Young is not on that list. Well, it's a business too. And so my assumption would be, well, if somebody comes calling and you want me to stay, how much you going to pay me to get me to stay? Because this is not, he's not coaching BYU basketball for goodwill. He's coaching to win.
He's not doing it out of the goodness of his heart.
No, he's coaching, and if you got
leverage.
Yeah, a guy who sits across from me who isn't here today used to tell me, you got to get leverage. You got to get 2 offers. And there was a time in my life that I had 2 offers, and let me tell you, I am a blue-collar dude. I've said this a million times. My father quit high school to help his family out back in New Jersey. The Irish, they weren't thought of. Jobs were tough to come by. Police, law enforcement was one job that they can get. Sure enough, my grandfather walked the beat. And my sister has the nightstick that he used. And he had 10 kids, and my father was born in a house. Not in a hospital, in a house. That's the background that I came from. And he worked as a maintenance man. You may call him a janitor. And that's what he was. And that's where I came from. So, money can be tight. Kevin Young has an opportunity to make money. And if you get leverage, and I got leverage several years back, and it was out of my league. I didn't know what to do because that's not the way I grew up, with leverage and people bidding for your services. And I got to say, it was sweet.
Well, our good friends also said, never let good leverage go to waste.
Yeah, and he was right. He's got a much better business mind than I do. And so here we are all these years later. And so the point I'm making is Kevin Young had leverage, and if BYU wanted to keep him, they had to pony up money. Yeah, good for him. Absolutely. That's the way. And good for BYU, man. That's another thing that's changed so dramatically with BYU. How in the world did they go from this rep of being so friggin' cheap? Now, that's not my word. That is a word that multiple coaches have told me in confidence, and I would never reveal their names. Because a lot of the stuff that I say, take the shots at me all you want. I'm basically Teflon at this point. It doesn't matter. I'm going to have this job. And that's what they've told me. When coaches have been here and then coaches leave and they go other places. And if you remember several years ago, about 10 plus years ago, the football staff, basically the crux of the coaching staff, went east to Virginia, and salaries were doubled and tripled. And not just that, all the other stuff that went around that, and the recruiting budgets and all that. And they said, they're cheap. Well, now they're not cheap anymore. What went down? And you got a new athletic director who's going to be as aggressive as anybody, communicating with him over the weekend, and what a whirlwind week this has been for Brian Santiago. Well, Brian Santiago, how is he thought of? Oh my gosh, he's thought of as being hyper competitive and arrogant and obstinate and not warm and fuzzy. Well, those are, in a sense, offshoot synonyms of the word competitive. So Santiago's not taking this job to finish second. Not at all. He's taking this job to take the athletic department into new places, and it's already going into new places. And to me, this is really incredible. If you're a BYU fan, you got to be reveling in this opportunity that you have. You want your teams to win, for sure, and it looks like they're going to be able to do that. What do you think, man? Am I off my rocker? Let me know. All right, that's what I think. We're going to talk some college football at the top of the hour. Talk some NBA. Stay with us. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Now, every team has been assigned a Heisman contender. If you were going to pick somebody who'd win the Heisman Trophy, the Heisman Trophy is built for numbers. The Heisman Trophy is built for flash. And Devin Dampier for Utah could actually give you both of those things. If you're actually going to list somebody on every team, fine, that's fun. And Utah, I think if you're really talking about it, inside the state of Utah, the person who would actually have the ability to be able to do it, I think is Devin Dampier.
I agree with you. If he is able to do the things he did at New Mexico on a Power 4 stage and is even more productive in the pass game, he's going to make some noise. Is it going to be Heisman noise? Utah would have to have a remarkable season. He has the type of skill set and he has the type of electricity that will get that kind of attention when he's successful.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. And now, your Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer strong play of the weekend.
Galen long leads Wallace to the rim on Jokic. Dumps with the left hand. Casey Wallace posterizing the big man. Timeout Nuggets. Oh, an exclamation point. Elevation. Posterization by Casey Wallace, fearlessly attacking Nikola. He scaled the big mountain from Serbia and has Oklahoma City up 78-57. That was spectacular.
Spectacular. That's your Rocky Mountain Chevrolet play. What is it? Play of the week? Play of the weekend? What do we say?
Play the weekend, play of the week, play the game, all that stuff.
So know that, and when JJ and Alex call for it, you can win later today. How about that? All right. That SGA leading the OKC Thunder into the Western Conference Finals, which we will have between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Thunder, starts tomorrow.
Mañana.
Yep. Yeah. And then the Eastern Conference starts Indiana and New York on Wednesday. So they get right at it. No time off, basically. Prepare today and play tomorrow. And I asked the question, is this not good for the NBA? Is it bad for the NBA? Is it good for the NBA? I think it's good for the NBA because last week there was a lot of hubbub about the lottery, right? And that they weren't going to let Cooper Flagg go to a crummy team, or not a crummy team, a crummy city, which is supposedly the lower, less glamorous market. So send him to Dallas. This is a big market in the Southwest, right? Blah, blah, blah. We had all that going on last week. Believe what you want on there. But now you've got OKC and Minnesota. And Indianapolis, for that matter, with the Pacers. Obviously, they're called Indiana, not Indianapolis, but that's where they're located. New York, I mean, that's the ultimate. You can't get any bigger than New York, for sure, here in the United States. But in the West, you're guaranteed to have either OKC or Minnesota in the final. Good or bad for the league. As far as them taking a hit, all the slant towards the big markets and the glamour markets, this is great for the league. Right? I think that it's outstanding for the league.
Well,
TV ratings may stink.
But that's the thing.
If you're into that.
The ratings have been up a little bit this season. That's the other thing about this. DJ's been talking about. The ratings have actually gone up. And, PK, we're going to have what we're calling the parity era here. 7 straight years with a different champion every single year.
Is that good for the league?
I think it is, but I'm a guy who likes to see the parity, and it's something that the NFL has kind of capitalized upon because the NFL will have you believe that there is parity-driven as anybody, but funny enough, right now it's more the NBA that's parity-driven, whereas the NFL has had the Chiefs, who have had a little bit of a dynasty here. We might be on the cusp of Philadelphia doing something special. We've got, it's kind of interesting. We have two perceptions of these two leagues that are almost inverse of what their perception actually is versus reality.
I think anything that happens with the NFL can be spun in a direction of this is great because it's the NFL. The appetite for football, college and NFL, are such that it is so huge. Look at the college game.
It is a voracious appetite.
It keeps trying to screw it up, and it can't.
You can't kill it, even though they've tried multiple times, apparently. Yeah,
right.
Good point. That's a very good point. They have tried
all the stuff that's gone on just in the last couple of years.
College football is a cockroach. You cannot kill it.
Yeah. It's impossible to have that happen. I have a friend. We were in Hawaii in March. We went with another couple, and a friend of mine were one evening. We're sitting by the fire outside an area of the hotel and looking at the ocean. All of a sudden, he just goes berserk, slapping his face. It was a literal cockroach that was crawling on his face.
Okay, that's giving me the heebie-jeebies all of a sudden. Holy smokes. That's bad. That's bad.
And he smacks it, right? And he just had this like huge personal attack, and he something, and I saw something that was crawling down his shoulder, but I didn't know what I saw. Ugh. And then it goes up on his face, and he smacks it, and it goes straight down below us. And there's like a little sand pit, and we see this thing. It's like 2-3 inches long.
Oh God. So it's like the big sucker. Oh.
It's a literal cockroach.
Yuck.
Good thing we were all done eating. It was later in the evening. It was about 8:30, 9 o'clock when we saw that. So college football keeps getting all out of whack, but yet it's still extremely popular, and it's going to continue to grow. And we count down until the start of the season when it gets here in August. So much looking forward to it.
96 days, PK.
96 bottles of college football days on the wall.
Yep.
So I'll be down there in Dallas, Frisco, the Cowboys facility for the 8th and 9th of July, whatever that Tuesday and Wednesday is. Looking forward to that. Big 12 football will be on display, and which perfect timing is we're going to talk about our spring football tour, TCU, see what the Horned Frogs and Sonny Dykes got going on. We'll get to that next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Listen to Hans and Scotty this Wednesday, where we will have Kids on the Move in studio promoting the Hope in Motion Golf Invitational. This isn't just a golf tournament. It's a chance to drive real change for children with developmental disabilities in your community. All right, good cause. That's coming up on Wednesday. All right, joining us now is Stephen Johnson. He is the TCU beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Stephen, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Doing well, man. We're going to take a trip around the conference and TCU, the Horned Frogs. Decent season last year. And bounced back from the year before. Interesting, the plane that they've been on 3 years getting into the title game, and then after that, struggling. 6-3, 9-4. I consider that a decent season. What's the overall feeling as far as the Horned Frogs going into next season?
The expectation is they want to improve on the season they have. They have full expectations on hopefully being one of the two teams that make it to AT&T for the Big 12 title game. You bring back Josh Hoover at quarterback. You bring back some key defensive pieces like Bud Clark at safety and Nnamdi Obiegzor at linebacker. So they feel like they got the experience. They have continuity with both coordinators. This will be Kendall Brow's third season and Andy Avalos' second season, and the defense kind of showed improvement down the stretch. So they think they have everything in place that they need to get back to the Big 12 title game.
So I listened to Sonny Dykes' spring recap, and then I read a piece by you, I think it was on May 15th, and where I'm going with this is the portal, the transfers. So I think it's a couple days old, so you never know. It changes almost daily. But from what I gather is they signed 12 transfers, but they lost only 4, none in the 2 deep. That's got to be considered a positive sign.
Yeah, just about. It might be higher than 4, but honestly, they might have lost some guys in the winter portal. I can't remember off the top of my head. But basically, they didn't really lose anybody that I think they wanted to keep. Most of the guys that left are kind of transferred down to like a North Texas, UTSA or things of that like, which, that's just going to happen just because of attrition and guys want to eventually play. So, but I think this was absolutely a positive sign for TCU. They were able to keep Josh Hoover away from, some teams that were kind of poking around, seeing if they could kind of get him to enter the portal. So I think now you're at the point where if you're Sonny Dykes, this is year 4 for him. This is pretty much his roster. There may be a handful of guys still here from the Gary Patterson era, but this is his roster, his coaching staff. This is now his program fully. And I think that's given him a little bit more. When you talk to him during spring practice, you could definitely kind of feel the confidence, feel the determination off of him. Like, I think he kind of feels settled in at home now. And I think the fact that they weren't so aggressive in the transfer portal, that 12 number, and one of those guys is a long snappers. That's the fewest transfers they signed since he got here at the end of 2021. So he feels good about the internal development of some of the recruits they signed and the depth they have on both sides of the ball.
Start offensively. Two big-time receivers, Williams to Green Bay, back to Raiders. That's a third-round pick, second-round pick. Obviously, those guys are expected to have an impact in the NFL going that high. So Hoover, as far as who is he going to throw to, Sonny Dykes was talking about that they had Major Everhart and Jordan Bailey that they need to get back healthy. He believes they will be healthy for camp when it opens in August. Terry Sheldon, 6'4" kid, they like him. And they picked up a couple of transfers, Joseph Manjack from Houston and Jordan Dwyer from Idaho. Give us an assessment at the receiver position.
Well, Eric McAllister is the name you really need to know. I think he could easily be one of the best receivers in the Big 12. He was kind of the sixth man last year. Still had, I think, well over 700 yards, even though he was with Savion Jack and J.P. Richardson, another guy that signed an NFL contract. So they have an unquestioned number one receiver, a guy that I think can easily top 1,000 yards. Jordan Dwyer is probably the guy I would look at as like the number two guy just based off what you've seen at camp. He can stretch the field. He has really good hands for a guy that's probably known more as a deep threat, as a speedster. So those are two guys I think they can really build around. I don't think Shelton will contribute much this year. I just think he's a little ways off, but there is another freshman named Ed Small, the guy that can play in the slot in case Major or Jordan aren't healthy. So I think they're in a good spot at the outside receivers with Eric and Jordan Dwyer. Now you're just kind of trying to figure out who can play inside between Small, Bailey, Everhart. Manjack, I think, will kind of be moved all over as well, too. So they have some options. They have some depth there. They just need, obviously, the guys like Major and Jordan. Those are those quick twitch guys that you can just kind of throw those bubble screens to, and they can take them. They can take a 2-yard gain to a 20-yard gain. So they would definitely open up the offense. I don't know if the receiver corps will be as good this year, but I think they should have more depth if they can keep these guys healthy.
Yeah, he also had mentioned Small as far as a special teams guy, too, as someone to watch and didn't miss a rep at spring ball. Offensive line, Rasheed Jackson. Now they're moving Colton Deary to center. He likes that group. McCabe says he's played a lot of football, and they got more depth there. But when I listened to Coach Dykes talk, it didn't seem like, and you know way more about it than I do, Stephen Johnson, TCU beat writer from Fort Worth, Star-Telegram joining us, that he was particularly set on 5 guys, that it looks like that's a work in progress, something that they need to solve when they get to camp. Is that accurate?
Based on the spring, it seemed like they had their 5 to me.
Okay.
Deary will certainly be starting at the center spot. They have Cade Bennett, a guy who missed all of last year, San Diego State transfer. He was a 2-time All-Mountain West Conference selection. And I think they really missed him last year. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be at one of the guards. They have Ben Taylor Whitfield at one tackle spot and redshirt freshman Ryan Hughes at another tackle spot. Both those guys are solid. I would be really surprised if either is really pushed or challenged in the fall camp. So at least in my mind, I think one of those guard spots might be up for grabs. But I think overall they feel pretty good about at least 4 of the 5 starting spots. They just want to kind of get that other spot kind of filled out.
Who's going to be running back? I couldn't figure that out for anything. I don't know what's going on there.
I think if I had to pick somebody, I think it would be Nate Palmer. I believe he's a redshirt freshman. He might be a sophomore. But I think there'll be a committee approach, but I think Nate Palmer will be the guy I would expect to get the first carry when they play North Carolina. I just think he provides the best blend of explosiveness, running hard, being able to catch in the flat, catch these routes. You know, they love running their running backs on wheel routes. And he's not the biggest back, but he's also a willing blocker. So I think he's just the most versatile. So he's the guy that I think had the best spring out of all the running backs, and he would be the guy I would lean to as being the starter right now.
Defensively, Coach Dykes was raving about the linebackers. You already mentioned one. I think you mentioned 2, and then Caleb Cortez has an opportunity to really be a strength. Is that accurate?
This Caleb Elarms Orr is probably the other guy he was talking about. He was another guy. He was at Cal in 2023. He was all Pac-12 linebacker going up against Caleb Williams and Bo Nix and those guys. It was kind of like the sixth man last year of the linebacker group, so now he should be kind of filling in as a starting role. And I think between him, Namdi, and Max Carroll, they might have the most athletic linebacker room in the Big 12 just in terms of guys that can move from sideline to sideline just with their overall explosiveness. They signed Michael Thiessen from Missouri State, which I think is a big addition in terms of just depth, because if either one of those three guys goes down, then it could get really bleak for them. So I think at the top they'll be really good, but after those four guys I just named, it's going to be a lot of true freshmen, a lot of guys that haven't played before. So I think the hope for them is that they just keep those guys healthy. They think they can be one of the best units in the country.
Was this right? Did I catch this right? Sony said they had 20 freshmen that came in early and were in spring ball. Is that accurate?
Yeah, just about. Might have been 18 or so, but yeah, they had a lot of early enrollees there. Guys like Ed Small, Terry Shelton, Adam Schobel, quarterback. They had a lot of some of their DBs in secondary. So it was the biggest group of freshmen I ever seen kind of enroll early. And I know you guys, they do things differently down here in Texas. So I think it was definitely impressive, and I think it was big for guys. Chad Woodfork is another guy, top 100 recruit, was able to get on campus, get some valuable reps. So I think it was big for all those young guys to get on campus. And, during spring ball, you guys got in and out of the lineup. So a lot of those guys were able to get reps with the first team, the second team, and I think that was just valuable, very valuable for their development.
Stephen Johnson, TCU beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, joining us. Cornerbacks, I think it's in secondary as a whole, I think it's going to be important that no matter what school you are with, that your secondary is good. Last year in the Big 12 was sort of the year of the running back. I think 7 guys are moving on to the NFL from various teams in the Big 12. And this year, I think that it might be a little bit more the year of the quarterback, because there are a lot of returning quarterbacks that are going to be on rosters this season. And obviously TCU has one of them in Hoover. And so your defensive backfield needs to be strong. I think they get a boost from sophomore Vernon Glover, who played as a freshman and then redshirted. I think he might have had some injuries last year. And you got Channing Canada, you got McGee and McIver. And then also he felt, Sonny did, that there's a group of young corners that are ready to make their move. And then also at safety there, just evaluate that position or those positions.
Yeah, I think Yeah. So with them, they'll get 2 guys back, Vernon Glover and Avery Helm, both missed last year with season-ending injuries. They got hurt. I think Avery got hurt first, and Vernon got hurt the very next day. So having those 2 guys back, I think obviously adds a lot of depth to the room. Channing Canada and Javon McIver were 2 of the guys I think had really strong springs. So I think TCU could easily be 5 or 6 deep at the cornerback spot. And at safety, I think that could be another strength of the team led by Bud Clark, who I think is going to be one of the best safeties in the country. I think Pro Football Focus had him graded as a top 5 safety last season, so he could be a guy that could earn maybe some preseason All-American, preseason All-Big 12 honors. They've got Austin Jordan, a Texas transfer. He kind of filling in at the nickel spot. So I think overall, and they also got Jamel Johnson. He was a guy that I think was willing to leave, or he was about to enter the portal, but they were able to keep him for another year. So I think just overall, the secondary is probably the deepest part of the roster. They got experienced guys, they got transfers, they got young guys. They have it all there. So they're hoping this could be the best secondary Dykes has had while he's been in Fort Worth.
Up front, getting pressure. I know they got a transfer from Washington State. They're going to be okay to be able to get pressure on the quarterback and handle the line of scrimmage?
I think so. Like I said, it's another group where they feel they're a lot deeper. Zach Chapman was a guy that earned some freshman All-American honors last year. They have Davian Dill, Ansel Dinmabah, the guy you just mentioned from Washington State. He led the Pac-12, or he led Washington State in sacks last year. And they also have Marcus Dill, former 4-star recruit, rising guy. I think could be one of the better defensive linemen in the Big 12. If he takes another step with his development. So all across the board is they feel a lot better about the depth they have. Last year, I think they maybe only had 5 or 6 defensive linemen they really felt they could really throw in there. that number might be twice as much this year. So I just think the theme overall is we're deeper here at these key spots than we were a year ago. And now I think they have a lot more different body types than they had even 2 seasons ago when they were still running 3-3-5, which, most of your defensive linemen, they're going to be run blockers, run stuffers, kind of trying to take up 2 blocks at a time. Now they have guys that are run stoppers. They have guys that are long, 6'4", 6'5". They're like edge rushers. So I think they have more versatility that they can attack and kind of adjust to different teams they'll face.
Stephen Johnson, TCU beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, joining us. Sonny was talking about turnovers last year, and you look at their schedule. He says that was a major reason for the strong finish. And you look at it, at one point they were 3-3. They had lost 3 of 4 once they got into conference play, and then also the SMU loss, which was, I think, did he get ejected in that game? It's a high-scoring game. SMU won 66-42. But then once you got, they came up to Salt Lake, and that slugfest of 13-7 that they won. They only lost 1 game the back half of their schedule. That was by 3 points to Baylor, at Baylor. So they finished real strong. How much do they need to control those turnovers? Because he was talking about once they got them under control, that was a big difference in then having success in the second half of the season.
Well, I think it all starts with the run game. I think a lot of those early turnovers were a result of Josh Hoover kind of trying to force the issue, trying to do too much, which he kind of had to do just because their run game was just, I think it was definitely the worst in the Big 12. Only Colorado, I think, had a worse rushing offense than TCU, which should tell you a lot. So I think if they're able to kind of supplement it and not force him to do as much with his arm, I think that'll be the key in kind of, limiting those turnovers. But we also know turnovers is just kind of, there's a little bit of luck involved with it, getting the fumble. There might be an interception, kind of is a deflection or things like that. So I think those things are a little bit harder to control. But I think if you're able to establish a run game and you're not asking Josh Hoover to throw it 40 times a game, that'll only enhance the chances of you guys, above TCU has, of winning the turnover margin. And historically under Sonny Dykes, if they win the turnover battle, they typically win the game. So I think he's on to something there. I think it all starts with just not forcing Josh Hoover to do so much under center.
Several years ago when Gary Patterson's was, I think it was during the 2008 season when Utah went to the Sugar Bowl, I was covering the game, and I'm sitting in the press box, and you know how they have the sheet and they list the rosters, and they had the entire roster for TCU, and I was bored at halftime or something. And I think I counted that of all the guys on the team or on the travel roster that they listed, only 4 were not from the state of Texas, which just blew me away. And now we hear Kyle Whittingham at Utah has been talking about that since they're in the Big 12, they've sort of de-emphasized a little bit California and beefed up the Texas recruiting and the opportunity because it has such a presence now in that state in the Big 12. Can you speak to how many prospects, Division I prospects, there are in your state? Because it seems like it's just like every high school has 10 or 15 or 20. I mean, that's outrageous, but I'm trying to make a point of just how good Texas football is at the high school level.
Well, it's definitely deep here. I mean, obviously there are a ton of schools in the Big 12, the SEC, and that probably live off of Texas recruiting. Like, it's a state that provides the basis of talent for TCU, SMU, Texas, Baylor, Texas Tech. All these schools in Texas, they all want to start with kind of – you can't really put up a fence around Texas unless you're maybe the Longhorns or so. But I think everybody knows there's enough talent in here where you can – 6, 7 Power 4 programs can all, form their foundation in the state of Texas. Or even all the way down to 1A private school. There's talent all over here. You'll find a 5-star at a town of 2,000 people. So I just think the depth overall, the passion this state has for football just results in them producing so much football talent. And honestly, maybe the only spot that there isn't high-level football might be kind of in those western Texas part that are kind of, there's not much there. But even in places like Lubbock, El Paso, Brownsville, and things like that, you'll still find 4-stars and 5-stars and things like that. So I think just knowing a state this big that you can just kind of drop a pin anywhere, and there's probably going to be a 4-star or a 3-star within 10 miles. I just think that helps so many programs around the country. And it makes sense if you're Utah why you want to get more into Texas as opposed to California.
Stephen, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Okay, that is Stephen Johnson, TCU beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, talking about the TCU Horned Frogs. They were 6-3, 9-4 last year. I listened to Sonny Dykes' spring ball recap, and they're excited for the opportunities. Don't be sleeping on the TCU Horned Frogs. We remember them back for when they were in the Mountain West, and they were really good then, obviously. And they play in Provo on Saturday, November 14th. I do not believe they play Utah this season, but they play the Cougars, and they come into Provo. An old rivalry. I think it is a little bit of a rivalry there with TCU because they had some good teams, and BYU and Utah had some good teams. It was a fun little series that they had among the three schools, and they will be playing in Provo on Saturday the 15th. All right, stay with us. We will get you caught up, what we may have missed, what we're talking about. And also, we got our guy, Sam Farnsworth. You know him from KSL TV. He will be joining us next, the sports anchor. Stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
Kurt Heelan from NBC Sports and ProBasketballTalk.com.
Ultimately, if you're in a market this size, you need a break. And this lottery did not give it to you. And it hasn't under this new system. I mean, look, Detroit turned it around this year because they'd gotten the number one a few years back with Cade, and they made some smart moves around him. But this is the third straight year the team with the worst record has fallen to fifth. The league has to reconsider how they're doing this lottery. I get that this was a reaction to the tanking of the 76ers and the process. But if the team that's got the worst record keeps landing this deep, it's not okay. They need to do something to give these teams like Utah that are not perpetually trying to lose and give them a chance.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
9 o'clock hour Slacker Radio headlines are brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary at 801-899-7600 or visit the website at TrajanWealth.com. Okay, we've been talking about the NBA. Oklahoma City Thunder dispatch the Denver Nuggets and do it in big-time fashion. Destroy them, blow them away. And now they move on and will play the Minnesota Timberwolves on Tuesday, tomorrow night. Yeah, that's pretty cool, huh? The Thunder, small market team versus small market team in the Minnesota Timberwolves with all those Jazz guys that they got there. And then also the big story, Scottie Scheffler winning the PGA title. It's a major. It's his third major, second time as far as two from the Masters and one at the PGA. So he's halfway to the Grand Slam of golf, which the career Grand Slam, obviously, which my guy Rory McIlroy got last month. All right, joining us now is, speaking of my guy, oh, he's definitely my guy. He's Sam Farnsworth. You see him on KSL Television, Channel 5, man. That good-looking guy. But I guess if your competition is JJ, well, then you're going to win in a landslide, right?
I'm not weighing in on this at all. I'm staying clear of this one. But hey, you're my guy too, PK. Thanks a lot, man.
Now, as your family, have they gotten over the fact that you wanted to be a sports television personality and not a medical doctor? Because I know in your family that's the requirement.
Yeah, right. Yeah, my dad's a retired pediatrician. My brother's a doctor. I mean, I don't know what happened. Somewhere along the way, when I was still in my youth, I was like, you know, if I can't play pro sports, I can talk about pro sports and maybe get paid to do it. And here I am still doing it, sometimes still wondering, what am I doing? Shouldn't I have gone the other direction? But hey, I still love what I do, and it's a great job. I don't know, man. They think it's really cool too, I guess. So hopefully I'm winning some brownie points with Dad and the brother.
That's funny you say that, because that was my line of thinking when I was a kid growing up. I thought, I want to play third base for the Dodgers. And then, man, when I was 11, 12, in my mind, I got a shot. But then when I went to high school and I was 16 and 17, I had no shot.
Well, my dad was always that guy who's like, hey, that's great, but only about one in every couple million kids out there are ever going to make it. So you might want to think about what else you want to do. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to talk about sports then. I don't know if that thrilled them off the bat, but I think they're pretty pleased with me now. So
yeah, and that's what I did. I said I have got to have a way to be in some form of the sports industry. And my father wasn't a coach or an executive, so I had no in there. And I figured, well, how about this? Sports writing was a big deal when I was growing up, man.
Yeah.
I used to just devour the newspapers and read the stories of the sports. That's how I learned to read, essentially. And then sports radio came about, and I thought, oh, my gosh, I got to do that, too. So I've done both. I wrote sports for 23 years, and now we're in our 24th year of doing this show, which is just amazing to me. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, you know what I love about, and this is going to date me a little, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm 46. My dad, he's in his 70s now. We were just talking about it the other day that we really miss just picking up a newspaper, opening up box scores. That was like, as a kid, that was like my video game, was going through the box scores in the newspaper and seeing the stats and seeing who, went 2 for 4 the day before or whatever it was, and so, hey, and half of your audience may not be able to relate to that, but I'll tell you what, picking up a newspaper, checking the box scores, reading the columns, there's something special about that. And so, it's a talent too, PK. You are very talented at doing that too. So
Thank you.
Your columns.
I appreciate that. So we've got to talk a little bit. Basketball is in the news. OKC obviously moving on. I think to a degree they're a role model for the Jazz. Now I was just looking it up. They missed the playoffs only 3 seasons, and the Jazz obviously were at that point. It was a little bit of a downer on the lottery situation.
Yeah.
But we laughed about it. We mourned for a day, and then you got to move on, because I still think that they can do some significant things to improve their team. Do you think it's time to they'll draft 5th, obviously, and I think they can get a good player there. But how about, maybe expediting the process a little bit, or just say, no, we're going to go right back at it next year because there's some guys at the top of the draft next year that can really help us.
Yeah. I mean, expediting the process, I think that's what most fans would love to see, right? Because they've patiently endured. And I think that's part of what made the draft lottery at last Monday such a gut punch, right? Was to find out, well, we endured all that. We went through all that to just get the 5th pick, and I think you're right. I think there's still a lot of talent that's going to be available at 5. It's just not quite the same as being at number 1. But do they expedite things now? You have to have options to be able to do that, and I'm not quite sure. It's going to be interesting to see if there's potential superstar options that could be available in trades, if those are possibilities. But to me, it really feels like in today's NBA, the best way for a team like the Jazz to become a competitive team is you've got to find your own talent, and that, for me, that would mean probably going through another season of not great basketball to try to get another hopeful top 5 pick again next year, and it's frustrating, but I feel like, I even wrote a little open letter to the NBA, just as kind of a joke the other day, that, Adam Silver, it feels like the only way a team like the Jazz can compete is if they do it through the draft the right way. And it just feels like the NBA is against teams like that because trades are being made under the table, like Luka Doncic, even though the Jazz have limitless assets to be able to potentially put together an offer for a guy like that. They didn't even know that guy was available, and then they're supposed to have the best odds to get the number 1 pick, and they end up getting the 5th pick. Things like that. It's frustrating. But I still feel like in the end, probably the best way for the Jazz is to do it one more time. And that's not what Jazz fans want to hear. That's not what Jazz fans want to see. But I still feel like that's probably the best way for this team to build what you would hope to be a perennial playoff team again.
Sam Farnsworth, Channel 5, joining us. Did you just go and quote a Britney Spears song? baby, one more time?
One more time, baby. Do it one more time. Just one more time. Come on. I mean, next year's draft class is better, right? So, and hey, look, we've got the distraction of a pretty good hockey team to go along with it too. So maybe that'll help some Jazz fans out there too to be able to endure. But yeah, I mean, gosh, it is frustrating, but I just feel like that's the best route.
Yeah, I have to agree with you in terms of the way the league is set up. And I know that I give the league credit for trying to address problems. They know the All-Star game is an absolute stink bomb. It's a joke. And they've tried to fix it, tried to do other things. But it's hard, and now they're trying to address the tanking, and they flattened the odds in 2019. But yet you still had at least 4 teams that were tanking, and by having them pick, so the 4 teams that had the 4 lowest records will end up drafting 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Yeah,
you're basically forcing them to suck again next season by not giving them higher picks. So I don't know that there's anything that they can do, and it puts the Jazz and these other teams behind the 8 ball because you're probably not going to be able to get some big-time free agent because it doesn't seem like there's big-time free agents move, or if they move, then they'll tell you, I'm not going to go there because I'm not going to resign there. So what's the point of doing that? And so you're forcing these teams to lose again and again. I don't see there's any way out. The system stinks, but it is what it is, and you got to go along that route to try to get better.
Yeah, they definitely the goal was to deter teams from tanking, and I get it. That worst pick isn't getting the best, or the worst record isn't getting the best pick. Especially these last 3 drafts, the worst team has gotten the 5th pick in each of the last 3. And so it's kind of like, okay, it's working. Your message is working, NBA. You don't want people to tank. However, this is the only route because you're not making it easy for teams like the Utah Jazz and middle market teams to go out and land a big-time free agent. You're not making it easy for them to at least become a participant on the trade market. So this is the only route. You have to help them out a little bit. It's not like the Jazz want to tank every year and be a bad team. They have a proud history. They have a winning history. They want to get back to that, but the only way they can is by building from within, and you've got to reward. And I know it's kind of backwards from what the NBA wants, but I just feel like you've got to reward these teams that are trying to do it the only way they can, which is finding the best talent they can in the draft. The next All-NBA guy on the Jazz is in high school, college, or Europe somewhere right now, right? And the only way they're going to get that player is if they can have one of these probably top 3 or 4 picks. And it's deflating when it feels like the Jazz did everything they could the way they knew how they could, and they still weren't rewarded for it. So, and you look at the teams across the league. Look at Oklahoma City. They are a team that developed, for the majority part. They're a team that developed. Denver, a team that developed. They found guys in the draft, were able to develop. So it's just showing that most of these teams that are competing out there, that's the way they've done it too, right? And so it's a long process. It's a dirty process. And you just, I still would like to believe that big game hunt is out there somewhere. I just don't see it anywhere right now. So I feel like the draft is the way.
Yeah, and I think Sam Farnsworth, Channel 5, joining us, that the explosion of basketball literally around the world has created a higher number of quality players. You look at 2 years ago with Wembanyama, and then you look at this year with Flag, and then you look at next year with this kid down the road, Dybantsa. Teams are clamoring, and Carlos Boozer's son, he's got 2 sons, and one of them should go top 2 or 3. And the level of talent, the level of potential franchise changers, it seems like it increased. It seemed like in LeBron's era, well, you can get a good player, but, an Andrew Bogut is a good player, but he really wasn't a franchise-changing player, and he goes number 1, and you had sometimes they're stinkers, but it just seems like it was few and far between the number of great players, but it seems like today there's more potential franchise changers, which then for these teams that are losing increases the desire to stink now for the reward later because I can get a really good player. It seems like they don't grow on trees, but it seems like there's more of them now.
Yeah, there's a lot for sure. I mean, but even when, and maybe it's changing a little bit, but if you look at the draft over history, right, especially the first round, the lottery picks, you can even narrow it down to the top 10 or even top 5 picks over the last 20 years. Look at how many of them have become perennial all-stars or, just the percentages are low, right? I think what it means is that you really do have to have great scouting. You have to be able to identify talent. Go back to when the Jazz were able to acquire Donovan, right? You were in the market at the time. I was not, but I heard stories of, the Jazz identifying Donovan as the guy they wanted, and they were trying to keep everyone quiet about it, right?
Yep.
And so it's like, hey, if you can identify those talents out there, then that's great. How good is Danny at identifying those talents? We're going to find out real soon, because these last 2 draft classes, it's coming time to okay, it's either now or cut ties with some of these last 2 draft classes, right? Are these guys part of the future or not? These next couple of drafts, how well can they identify that talent? Because if you can identify it, yes, there's always going to be someone out there, a diamond in the rough, someone that can become a great rotation guy, even an all-star, even if your fingers crossed someday, a Hall of Fame caliber type player. Those guys are out there in every draft. They're just few and far between. So you just really lean on the development process, the scouting process to see if you can really identify those type of players.
Sam Farnsworth, KSL Sports Live anchor, joining us. Switching while I got you, talk some college football. We're only in May. I don't want to wish away the summer, but the collective anticipation for college football next season, really, to me, I can argue, might be as high as it's ever been here locally because you got the Cougars off the great season, you got the Utes off the disappointing season, but the changes that they made with this quarterback coming in and Jason Beck, and then you got Bronco Mendenhall, who's a proven program builder in Logan. Man, I am super excited, and I know you're a sports guy, so I'm thinking you share my excitement.
Yeah, that's actually, not to take away from the excitement around Utah and BYU, but Utah State is definitely there's something about that. I think Bronco, you nailed it. He is proven, right? Especially with kind of these, I don't know what you call them in football, if they're mid-market or mid-major, whatever, that kind of level, the G5 level teams. We've seen that with those teams, he's going to be able to take the best of what's out there, of what he can get, and turn them into winners. And Utah State, it just feels like this is a perfect fit, perfect match for him. But when we come down to BYU and Utah, what also makes it very exciting is, and I know this is still further down the road on the horizon, but for me, every single season with those 2 programs means so much more than being a contender for a conference championship, being a contender for a college football playoff. It means you have to stay nationally relevant in today's day and age, right? You've got to win. You've got to find ways to stay ranked and relevant because eventually down the pipe here, whether it's 3, 5, 8 years down the road, whenever this happens, when it really feels like college football is going to become its own kind of separate league, whatever they're going to do there, driven mostly by SEC teams and Big Ten teams, you've got to be relevant. You've got to stay in that mix. You've got to be relevant enough that they want to include you in whatever that is, if it's a 48, if it's a 62 team thing, whatever it is, whatever the number is, you got to make sure you're relevant enough to stay in there. And for BYU, I think it's super interesting, especially now with the change at athletic director, Brian Santiago taking over. The guy is got a resume unlike anyone else who was a candidate in the field, but how often was he involved in what they did on the football side of things in Provo? So I'm really curious to see how he approaches and addresses football in Provo with his new leadership role. He mentioned to the media that he did say that football is what drives the ship, and it's true. So can he keep BYU nationally relevant on the football side of things? Can Utah return to relevance? I really believe they are. I think last year was kind of a fluke season for the U. And then how can Utah or Bronco and Utah State? rebound after everything that happened up there last year and the dismissal of the coach and things kind of falling apart up there. So can he rebuild them into a G5 contender? So there's always going to be great storylines with football in our market. And no, we're not pushing summer down the road. It just is like, hey, can we just keep football going all the time? Because that's one of the most fun things to cover and talk about.
Absolutely. You're a Utah County kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you believe the transformation of BYU where when you were growing up for years and years, it was thought of as cheap, and now the stuff that they have available to them? I mean, and I didn't grow up here, but I knew of, I've been here for 30 years. I got to know a lot of people, and they told me BYU is cheap, and now it's almost like they're printing money. They're willing to invest as much as it takes to win. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. We mentioned, in this name, image, and likeness era where athletes are able to profit off themselves, which I think is long overdue. But if you think of some of the superstar talent that have been at BYU in the past, like a Jimmer, and even before that, Ty Detmer with the Heisman Trophy, I even wonder back then, I don't know if they would have cashed in that much in Provo. I don't know if people would have been as willing to fork out the money back then, no matter how popular or huge they were. But nowadays, wow, it's like this sleeping giant has awoken. And I don't know, I know a lot of people have linked Ryan Smith to, obviously he's got BYU ties. We know that, but it's not just him. But there's several others that have millions and billions of dollars that are suddenly wanting to invest in the program. And so it's crazy. I never would have imagined that at BYU, but here they are landing some of the top basketball talent in the country. They got a good coach. They're able to extend Kalani to a competitive deal and extend a lot of his assistant coaches to keep them on board. I'm curious to see how it rolls over with acquiring talent on the football team. Now we're starting to see some of that, but will they be able to continue to acquire talent that will allow them to stay competitive with some of the top teams in the country? And then how does Utah respond? This as we move forward with Alex Jensen on the helm now, I want to see where the Utah boosters come in and how they can spend the money as well. But yeah, you're right. It's weird because even 20 years ago, I never would have imagined if it came down to money, BYU being a contender. But here they are. They've got maybe the most financial support in the state now.
Well, Sam, I brought up at the beginning of this conversation who was better looking between you and JJ, but let's face it, neither of you can compete whatsoever with Mike Hedrick.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding? No. Look, I'm not trying to make this into a looks show here, but yeah, Mike is that's one handsome dude, and that's why he makes the big bucks. That's why he's in the anchor chair right there.
Yeah, and he's got the salt and pepper hairdo going on, so you can trust him, man.
Yeah, exactly. My brother, I always say, hey, my gray hairs are coming in. My brother's like, it looks distinguished. I'm like, that's just a nice way of saying I'm getting old, dude. Knock it off.
The only thing I don't like about Mike is he tries to pull the Ohio State card on me, and I hate him for that. That's it.
Huge Ohio sports fan.
I know.
He's originally from that Cleveland. Yeah, he'll throw that out there at us. Like if we don't show Guardians highlights, he'll remind us, hey, throw the Guardians in there too. So.
All right. Well, Sam, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot, PK. Have a good day.
All right, that's Sam's Farnsworth. You can see him on Channel 5 with JJ, and you can hear JJ in the afternoons and Alex from 3 to 6. All right, stay with us. We'll wrap up the show, get you ready for Jake and Ben next on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
Don't miss your chance to win big every week on the Zone. This week, Win Ticket Wednesday. You could win tickets to Judas Priest and Alice Cooper live at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on October 12th. Tickets are on sale now at livenation.com. Listen to the Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win. Yuck, Alice Cooper. You know he went to Cortez High School in Phoenix, Arizona?
I do know that. You told me that not too long ago. I didn't know that originally, though.
My wife coached basketball at Cortez High School. And for a time, I lived in an apartment right next to Cortez High School with my parents.
It's all interconnected here, PK.
Alice Cooper and Judas Priest. All right, we've been talking about today, oh my gosh, the NBA going to have a small market team in the finals. That is guaranteed. You're either going to have the OKC Thunder or the Minnesota Timberwolves. How about that? Is that good for the league? I think it's just a groovy kind of thing for the league. I think it's cool. Gives a little bit of hope for the Jazz, does it not? I think it does. In my mind, it does. You get it done, and away you can go. Put that question up on Facebook to get your feedback. Doesn't matter anymore, Scott says. Oh, man, he's come on, Scott. Small market team from the West, it matters. Both rebuilt from the draft and trades, Hank says. It's better than L.A. or a super team getting there. There's hope for the Jazz. And then that became the comment back and forth. It's tough to care about it after backdoor dealings that happened Monday. But if I was honest, I would hope Mike, Rudy, and Minnesota win. There's the Jazz fan, Hank says. The world loves a conspiracy, but the odds were we'd get the 5th pick. We'll get a good player and keep building. I think we'll get ours, hopefully sooner or later. Okay, yeah, sure. The odds did say you would get the 5th pick, but how about Dallas? What did the odds say you would get there? 1.8%, and they get the number 1 pick. That kind of stinks, but that's the world in which we live. The Jazz got the 5th pick, and they got to go get a good player. That is a fact. It's something they need to do. We'll see if they can do it. Hopefully they can. All right, stay with us. You got Jake and Ben coming up next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.